I would be shocked. So like when we see these two teams are rolling all these highlights, like we see the sim comps in play. If you've been watching like, OWCS and any of the other regions going on right now, sim has not really been played. Obviously a lot of perk adjustments coming in with season 18. So like I would be shocked if EMEA still stays on this type of stuff, but saying that it is EMEA, right? They historically don't want to play like it's things we're seeing in the other regions, like Tracer Genji and things along those lines. So it'll be fascinating what their read on everything is. TVNT in the starting lineup, right? They have KSA and TVNT. Psycho in as well, right? UB was playing a lot of like sim during stage 2, so this tells you already they're going in a different direction. And although he's not on my fantasy team, I still want to give some love to Simple. I think he's on yours. So he was like so sick during stage 2, so excited to see him back in action.
Yeah, I picked up both Simple and Funny Astro. Like, I think they're just such a solid backline for this team.
I think we have to point out very quickly as well is that like the reason why like changes have been made to the meta is also we have the addition of a new support hero, that's now available for play. Lijiang is definitely going to change the landscape a little bit. Extremely powerful, and some combinations that otherwise sort of have been a little bit unlocked, I think, by by their joining the roster. So if you've seen what other regions, you know what they're capable of doing. So it's not only the perk adjustment. There were like 50 new perks or changed perks in season 18, which is a lot to keep track of, plus the new hero edition.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see where this region is taking us with that, because historically it kind of just all ended up being the same-ish thing played in every region, but maybe they can make a stand and not buying into the dive that we've seen currently in the other region. We're about to find out. So Mitch, Matt, please take it away for our first match of the day.
Let's just get started. I mean, I'm super excited with our Qadsiah on the docket against Twisted Minds. Already, it's almost as if things are scripted, Matt. And what a good way to see how effective the brief off-season between Stage 2 and Stage 3 has been for many of these teams. I know we took some big breaks after that mid-season championship. Now it's nose to the grindstone again in that race to Stockholm.
And I'm more curious of what the meta in this region will look like, right? We talked about what we've seen in, other regions, especially with Lijiang added to the game, right? And kind of the dive and centric kind of comps we're seeing with like Winston and Diva and Tracer and Genji. That historically has not been EMEA. You're gonna get a little Call of Duty throwback. Like the EMEA is traditionally boots on the ground, right? They're not flying around out there. So we'll see what their read on it is. A lot, if you do remember though, in stage 2, a lot of these teams in EMEA try to make adjustments to end up playing more dive, and then dive actually wasn't like meta. So maybe some of that now will actually come into play.
All right, let's have a look at our map pool coming into this series, of course. And I think, with a different outlook as well, with different compositions kind of rising to the top, we expect to see some more maps or some different maps become preferential. And you're right. I mean, we talked about the Ultimates earlier now. They're no longer with us, but that was kind of a project, I think, that was designed to, have a team that could kind of play that dive style very naturally. When you say they're no
longer with us, it's so morbid. They're still with us. They're just not in OWCS. They're still existing, just not here currently. But Qadsiah picking Lijiang Tower, right? So you see Ilios in Samoa, like in the pool. Like Lijiang Tower is probably the one, right, where you don't have to play like a lot of Winston or Diva. You definitely can do it, right? But it's one of the ones that you can probably bring in some more of that like EMEA playstyle.
And we have our bans all ready for our first map here. So first ban up is Freya, taken away by Qadsiah here. And the Kiriko also being looked at, of course. Kiriko still very much in vogue right now, right? Even with some sort of minor changes. Obviously, like the shuffling perk gets removed now. So Switch Step, gives... Now she's got a major perk, rather, that gives her the increased attack and reload speed. Also, her other major perk now lets Suzu really increase your cooldown. It gives you cooldown reduction and also movement speed. So you can no longer have that second dash in a pinch when you
that was insane. That was extremely strong, the second dash. So excited to see that one go. Kiri Wuyong has been a pretty prevalent combination, but then also Wuyong with Ana. So curious if we'll see some Ana play. This also, like some teams in the EMEA, right, are designed a little bit more kind of, I would say, like old school, right? Like a main support and then like a flex support, where they're like, you think of a player like Kellex, right? Like playing a a hero like a Wuyang or Ana, right? It's going to be a little bit different how some of these teams kind of work around all of that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Obviously, Kellex historically was like a Brigitte, obviously played a lot of Mercy back in the day, Lucio. So, some teams might have to move more in that double flex support direction. Ana's still very powerful. Biotic Bounce is still very much part of her kit, so still has really, really nasty bio nades here, and Wuyang tends to just throw a lot of this into the mix. Now, if you haven't seen Wuyang in competitive play, we can talk about it a little bit when we get into game. There are some aspects that remind me of Zen with like a persistent heal over time that works on line of sight basis. There is like a healing amplification aspect of his Guardian wave, so that's something that's worth bearing in mind. But in general, just a great addition. Doesn't quite have the mobility that you might expect maybe a character like Wuyang to have. Like, he's still exploitable and you can dive on them, but very powerful in terms of just overall output.
I mean, his ultimate, and then also with like, let's say you're playing Ana as well with like nano boost. I mean, you basically have like kind of almost like 2 mini versions of it, which are kind of crazy. So the Freya gone, and Kiri. I think the Kiri is probably the one that's a little bit more impactful here for this first map.
Yeah, obviously Freya is still very powerful for many of the same reasons, folks. Being able to use that passive to have very frequent ultimates, and honestly just being pretty safe and agnostic to a lot of like whatever dive or whatever's happening sort of on the ground, given that she's got great vertical and lateral mobility all in one with that aimed shot. So Lijiang Tower was going to be our first opportunity to test how effective these two teams have been in that little break coming out of that mid-season championship. There was a lot on the line there. These two clashed in that semi-final as they have so many times before, and I'm very ready to run it back online and see what they've been cooking.
I mean, this be quite interesting, right? Obviously a lot of time to make some adjustments here, right? But TM potentially so we're gonna see them end up playing a Zarya comp, and you're going to see Zarya here on the opposite side, with Qadsiah. So both teams ending up playing with this Zarya here off the rip. We'll get the overlay flipped at the top of the screen, right? We're gonna have it'll be Qadsiah here, still going with that sim look. So we were like, this is gonna get phased out. Not here in EMEA.
Cassidy here for Labda, with a major perk, by the way, that's kind of insane. Replacing Fan the Hammer with a single piercing shot that bleeds is like a really nice for his output. And also has received some weapon buffs recently that have just made Cassidy very, very powerful. So great pick here. Psycho struggling in the initial encounter. TVNT going very, very low. And even Zarya, I think this is pretty interesting. In Season 18, it's just really a minor pass of perks, really, like with the a new minor perk that lets you, like, I think where you right-click and gain some extra energy, so it does help with range.
You gain 3 energy with like hits at range, right? With the right-click. So we'll see if that's a perk that ends up being selected here. Is Orts on the Soj, just building up some railgun shot here, some energy. We'll see if he's able to kind of find one. But Landon already with an Amp Matrix here. I was going to say they're going to be walking right into this. It's going to be a lot of damage coming out here from Qadsiah, and you get that first pick. Now you can start to push in behind this Zarya, and there's nothing really that TF can do.
No, I mean, with Ziad this charged up now with a shield in reserve, you know that your front line is going to be in very good shape. So Qadsiah sit back and simply play for the Amp Matrix. That's fair enough. Twisted Minds now have one of their own, but for Qadsiah, it's a little bit easier to disengage away from. Kellex obviously very mindful if he's tracking ultimates, and Twisted Mind's been losing so far. That means Simple's probably have to be putting more healing out, and this is a Deadeye position that actually threatens them from taking advantage of the Amp Matrix, and no bubbles left means that TVNT gets burst.
And I mean, we said it, I said it in the pregame, like, I'd be surprised if we see some of this sim stuff again. But like, if you're Qadsiah, like, you're so good at it, I guess why not just run it back? So they end up getting checkmate using that TP. It puts Labda in a really interesting spot. No way we can see them react, right? You don't know if that Cassie's gonna take that TP back the other way with that Deadeye, and then they catch out TVNT. So this will be an overclock here from Quartz. He gets actually hit with a grab. They're going to use that sound barrier there for Funny Astro to keep everybody alive.
Nice pick there from Quartz. Kellex is going to be ultimately the first casualty in this fight. It took quite some time for the bodies to start to fall. And Qadsiah, with only 4 players to work with, have opted just to give some ground. Perhaps even stall the 99 and then take a full regroup opportunity. But Labda from the high ground apparently has been able to rip one through Quartz, and that is bad news for Twisted Minds. TVNT is getting crushed in the front line, and Qadsiah have ridiculous positional advantage that leverage to end up making this first round a shutout.
Yeah, just a blowout there from Qadsiah. Just gonna pick it up where they left off in stage 2 in the EMEA, where hey, you come in with this checkmate sim. We did see a lot of Lambda like playing like Sojourn in stage 2, but can also play the Cassie, and like you mentioned, some new perks. Although he gets a little bit of a health reduction to make Cassidy maybe a little bit more lethal.
I mean, it's pretty sick. In general, I think like Cassidy has been living his best life. Now, of course, that piercing shot.
I mean, look, his best life was like when he was approaching 300 HP almost. But now, I mean,
yeah,
this is still pretty good.
Down, right? Back to
still pretty
250.
good. Yeah, he's down to 250 now.
I mean, I cannot. You asked me like this 5 years ago, would I ever believe that Cassidy would have 275 HP, and I would have laughed at you. We were heading in a very bruisery direction for some of our DPS characters, that's for sure. Turning that back a
Psycho
bit.
on the far here, definitely a little bit of a different look, obviously, for the second round, and they combo this with TVNT playing the Hazard, so Hazard gets some perk adjustments as well, like things moving from major to minors, and then some new additions, and right there they're able to kind of cycle out Ziad and take him out.
Yeah, crucially, Hazard now gets that jump distance increase on a minor perk. It's like slightly shorter, but still I feel like a great quality of life look for him. And then a major perk that allows him to sort of detonate shards from Bone Spur, just making his rotation far more powerful and giving him access to a little bit more burst damage. So still very, very strong. And I expect this is the kind of metagame where he's going to be able to get a foothold pretty comfortably. This is a much more classic look from Qadsiah here, of course. Harkening back to earlier on this year with the Sim Cassidy and now the Diva for Ziad. Pretty good, but Ziad definitely has to have his wits about him here. Now over towards the point we go. Landon has an aim matrix already developed, and this is about the off angle that you want to set up for it. It's really hard to avoid this damage in general. A checkmate gets flattened by Psycho before an immortality field could be thrown out towards them. Ziad can't do much in this fight at all, and Twisted Minds really springboard off that positional advantage.
Well, and the way you deal with Sim, right, is getting Sim out of the fight fast. Like, she excels once she starts to, like, ramp up the damage, exist for a while, but you see some damage that comes in from Psycho. Look at this, they want to push the pace, getting rid of that TP straight away, right? So not allowing Qadsiah to close the gap using that. But if you can get that Sim out of the fight early, you're in a much better spot for Twisted Minds, as that'll be an Ant Matrix here used by Simple a little bit forward. They actually find one, that's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty reminiscent actually of how Control Center went, Matt. It's that team holding the point, able to use an Ant Matrix early on in the fight, basically guaranteeing an extra 15, 20, if not more, with some of these picks coming off percent. Now it's Qadsiah at risk of being shut out of the game.
I was going to say, this is the exact opposite of what we saw in the first round, right? It'll be an overclock here from Quartz. Nice immortality field to kind of keep him alive for a brief period of time. They do end up losing TVNT, though. Just gets kind of slowed down, not able to use the leap to get out. So this could give Qadsiah an opportunity to flip.
Fight's not necessarily over here. Notice that Lad just actually taking the perk that increases the reduces the dodge roll cooldown, not the piercing shot one. So a little sad we don't get that showcase quite yet, but pick off on the enemy tank, always a good start. And crucially, Qadsiah with a couple of those DPS ultimates, including the Sim Wall in play. That's going to limit Quartz's effectiveness. Remember, Qadsiah got back into the map in a 4v5 by picking off that Sojourn earlier on. That's definitely the game plan for Twisted Minds. Downpour actually catches Lambda out there. Immortality Guild works for a time, but now it's expired. The Deadeye doesn't generate enough threat from Lambda to keep Twisted Minds away. That is a sick downpour there from TVNT, catching onto the most important target. From here on out, Twisted Minds are in a power position.
And for Qadsiah, right, you have a Sim Wall and you're trying to like protect some of the damage coming in after the downpour comes through, but you ultimately don't have a sound barrier, right? It's a huge advantage there for Twisted Minds. You can get aggressive behind that sound barrier, end a nice downpour from TVNT, and end up winning the fight off of that.
Quartz down to Lambda here, but still no chance for Qadsiah to move back in and take the point. And I'm not gonna lie, Quartz's damage output has been pretty astonishing over the course of this game so far. Close to 8k. The closest, I guess, is, I mean, Lambda's at 5.5, Checkmate at 6.3. So really dominating on this Sojourn. It's kind of what you expect to see. And I feel like a lot of our storyline emerged was this Lambda Quartz matchup in our mid-season championship, right? Lambda historically not a hit scan player, but has been able to pick that up this year and look incredible at it. Really take it. But a lot of people were out there saying Quartz might just be the best player in the world, genuinely. Now, I don't know if that is like hype from, you know, Saudi fans and just seeing like Quartz delivering some disgusting performances, but you can't argue with it in this game.
I mean, look, well, I mean, we've said it for a while, right? His play on hit scan is up there with literally anybody in the world kind of playing that role, right? Where I don't think it's crazy to say he's one of the best players in the world, as see from Psycho's POV trying to get an off angle here on the far, and you just kind of like bully them back into this corner, right? The Hazard able to close the gap. A few players knocked off the side there. The Violent Leap comes through. Since this Hazard swap, right, getting off of that Zarya and then now forcing Ziad onto the D.Va, this has been a comp that Twisted Minds has a distinctive advantage.
I think that Hazard, it's probably changed the dynamic a little bit, but it's also not kind of something you want to bring on a control center anyway. Out here, you've got so much more freedom. And just a hero that's still being looked at pretty heavily, like balance patch after balance patch, to sort of, you know, pull a couple of levers in terms of making him very consistent, very active, and also just giving you tons of options in through the perks. So no surprise to see TVNT go in that direction here. Spike Guard also only regenerates ammo now when there are people within it, which is fair, and it's not enough to keep TVNT protected.
Still very good. So we see Psycho die here, but I just want to also kind of highlight that he's running 2 of the newer editions, right? So he's got where it converts 125 of his health to shields, and then the direct hits with rockets trigger like regen of the shields. And then we also saw for a brief moment where he actually kind of like sees the outlines like Widowmaker. That's a new one where the conch reveals targets for 3 seconds and then also gives him 30% extra damage with direct rockets hit during that 3 seconds. So a huge like almost damage amp there or far during that opportunity, and that's when we kind of saw him coming around on the flank. So already seeing some of these new perks in play.
Yeah, giving you like some options now. You can actually be a little bit more aggressive, providing you're hitting those direct rockets now that your shield is you know, being regenerated as a result of it.
And the shield regen, right? Like just having the shielding allows Pharah to be a little bit more like self-sufficient in the sky. You have to give up the ability to move during barrage, so you now are just back to that old school barrage where you're basically dead, but still a lot of good value there for the Pharah.
All right, well, there it is. Kellex getting taken down early on in this fight, but Ziad's been able to deal with Funny Astro. Lambda looking for purchase here. Flashbang catches on the Quartz, but he was ready to rumble there, folks. Tough to run headlong into a fully charged Sojourn, but had to try and go for it, rather. Qadsiah with a little bit of stall on the backside of this fight. Got to get themselves pretty close to Twisted Minds total, but they spend pretty heavily. Air Matrix went in that fight. Deadeye went for nothing. It's a sound barrier they've got to pin their hopes on.
And Ziad potentially using one of those new D.Va perks where if you kind of hit reload, that the spread of the fusion cannons is reduced by 75% for 3 seconds. So D.Va can be extremely lethal at even further ranges here. It's going to be a barrage. It's going to be answered there with a sound barrier from Kellex. So that's going to keep everybody on Qadsiah up.
Psycho managing to light a lot of players up there with that conch blast now falling away. Twisted Minds feel like they've done enough and will allow Qadsiah to move out into the middle of the map. Falling back now onto the point. They don't have any ultimates, but nor do Qadsiah. Both teams really spending through those big abilities. So now it's going to be some old-fashioned, honest Overwatching. Funny Astro maybe missed the memo on that one. Lingers a little bit too long out in the open. Lapter at least getting to exercise his natural advantage against Pharah. It's very quickly Psycho is forced to play to the edges of the map. I think Twisted Minds realized writing's on the wall here, so a chance to regroup. And somehow Landon is okay in a very odd position.
Not an opportunity to regroup now. Yeah, I mean, you lose Landon. He's close to an Ant Matrix. I mean, also that's like your immortality field gone, a bulkier healing. So this is a huge loss there for Qadsiah. It's going to allow him to flip the point and get it into OT.
Rather, they just have to give up the point straight away by default here. Simple immortality field doesn't quite get far enough to TVNT, but he gets the memo and ducks back a little bit. Should be able to be kept alive if there's a regenerative burst here. Simple goes down. Landon doesn't have to pick him up, so that's the back piece out of the equation. Landon is doing some serious work on this BAP here, baby. My goodness.
He finds himself off the side there, so ends up but so they win the fight there. Qadsiah, I mean, they get pretty fortunate, right? Losing Landon first, able to fight back long enough to be able to kind of get him back in, and because he ends up dying and just getting knocked off the side, they have a distinct advantage. They hold on to this Ant Matrix, so now you have this kind of like nasty combination, right? With the Ant Matrix, the Deadeye, and then you could use like that Sim TP to kind of move back there around and see if they end up using something like that Quartz kind of caught out there in the open. That is worst case scenario there for TM.
Yeah, questionable positioning in Labs. We've seen this trick before with the Deadeye as Cassidy flips between two TP options and is able to account for most of TVNT's health pool with that one shot. That's Lijiang Tower wrapped up here. And I think Twisted Minds' positioning there coming into that last fight probably needs a closer look because Quartz going down first there is pretty unforgivable.
Yeah, it looks like potentially like there was some extra damage coming in, and he didn't want to get caught there, so he ends up kind of like sliding a little bit forward and just gets caught out by Lavin. So unfortunate, you lose your Sojourn there, right? It's when Quartz is basically like getting very close to an overclock, so a little bit of a rough one there, ending for TM, but Qadsiah takes his first map.
Oh, we got that one sorted for you guys. No dramas at all. Yeah, look, a pretty lively first map. We're seeing, I think, a lot of the aspects that made Qadsiah very strong earlier on in the year, right? Not huge changes outside of Psycho. Being able to come in here, someone who's been predominantly working as the coach on this Twisted Minds team. For those that don't know TM, they don't have a coach. So he's been standing behind them a lot of the time, you know, in Riyadh. Coming in here, starting with a little bit of a venture look, and then going to the far later on, it was quite solid. And Qadsiah there is straight out of the gates here. So clearly, the hierarchy, I think, of, you know, top tanks to play right now has been upset a little bit. But I mean, you don't land and do this to you on multiple occasions, by the way. He's going to go absolutely nuts.
So, I mean, the Zarya was, I think, just obviously, like, as we saw, like a round one type of thing. I'm curious now for Twisted Minds, right, where they decide to take us in terms of, like, map, because they were seeing success, like, playing some Bara with that Hazard, kind of, like, upping the pace. And then I think, like, Qadsiah started to find their footing a little bit, you know, playing that Diva, right, using the defense matrix, trying to protect against some of that Pharah damage. But is this something that Twisted Minds wants to like try again, right? Do they want to try and I know play some of this Hazard? We've seen a lot of teams in other regions play like Winston Diva. Do they want to try and go to something like that? See if they can push Qadsiah out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, and I wonder like how far that comfort zone is supposed to really extend now. Laptis' insistence on playing a Cassidy here, you know, has nothing to do, I think, with the changes that are made more recently, because he's going for sort of the earlier perks, just make sure there's more mobility, get around the map easier with that role. But obviously we've seen Lapta quite happily pick up the Sojourn on occasion. The Freya, I think, is more of an interesting question in this matchup, right? We actually saw it banned away in that first map by Alcan, if I'm not mistaken. So that's already,
which is interesting because like Quartz didn't really play a lot of the Freya in stage 2. That was like one of the things that we like would highlight about them, that they were still kind of playing the Soj. They were kind of committed to that even when Freya was good. So I don't know if you have to be like worried about that. Maybe obviously there was a lot of time, so potentially like it's something that you could have worked on, I know, in between the MSC and now. But look, I think Labda, like Cassidy, you know, the Freya, the Sojourn, like any of those seems to be extremely in his wheelhouse. So we'll see what TM decides to do in terms of like that bans for the next one. But yo, we got new drops. Look at that little cat. Where's the love for dogs here though, Mitch? Where's the love for dogs?
I mean, I want to say there's been a fair bit in the game, but I actually have no evidence to sort of back that up, Matt. So, you know, you're right. I'm a bit of a dog guy
or is this
myself.
Like is that Brig's cat? Yeah, Brig has like a emote with a cat. Like, is there ties to the lore here?
I want to suggest, and this might be a little crazy, but there are probably multiple Overwatch heroes that have cats. That
could be true.
Yeah, so I'm feeling like there's a bunch there. Now, remember, our featured co-stream is here in week number 1. Commander X and Tomathan, of course, tomorrow, but you can head over to Xavier's stream as well. He also has drops enabled, and I'm sure he'll back me up on this, that Xavier will keep his stream going for an extra 6 hours so you guys can get your drops if you come a little bit late.
Oh, yeah, you know, he's once he gets the viewers here, like, go over there. I mean,
tell him I sent you.
He is pumping those ads, probably keeping it rolling for a while. So yeah, you can claim your drops. You get through that today.
Yeah, but you know, there, of course, that's where the co-streams are at. Or hang out here. The drops are available in both of those locations, regardless. And obviously, they are looking pretty darn clean. Some great name cards there as well. We didn't get to talk about that as we were discussing, like the per capita ownership of cats. I think which is part of the course.
We need more. We need more dog love in Overwatch. Off the top of my head. There's probably actually lots of dog stuff within Overwatch, but you know, I'm allergic to cats. I'll still get those traps, but no, They're scary to me.
I'm glad that you won't get hired from equipping a name card. That features the counter. I'm really glad to hear that. So obviously that was the Freya ban in map number 1 that's now been expended by our Qadsiah. Twisted Minds, obviously they respond by taking Kiriko out of the mix, and many of the same things that make Kiriko good still present. Yes, you don't have that insane ability to have a second swift step in a short window, but your minor perks,
really
the minor perks are the same. So you do get like the increased offered sort of speed if a target is at critical health, and also if you hit kunais, you do get the free healing offered on the other minor perks. So that's still very much intact. I think that like Suzu giving cooldown reduction is super sick. I'm curious to see if there's any ways where that makes a big difference, but also that speed boost is very, very powerful. So
I mean, Rush is really good. She does great healing output, and the ability to TP and then cleanse. I mean, regardless of what they do to the perks, Kiri's still going to be extremely valuable.
Yeah, so look forward to see more of that in this series. Now, it is going to be a loser pick, so Twisted Minds will have their selection of Battleground here. And so far, to recap, we've seen a little bit of Xayah. We've still seen plenty of Soj and Cassidy in this particular game. A bit of Pharah mixed in. Psycho even attempted the venture early on a Control Sentinel, which I do think is quite reasonable. And the Hazard, we got to see a little bit about what Hazard is able to provide right now. It's actually a pretty long list of changes he got coming into Season 18, so we'll maybe dig into those a little bit more.
He was already pretty decent before Season 18 as well, right? Like, he was one of the, like, there are some heroes who are, like, out of the meta, and there's some heroes that are, like, borderline. I feel like Hazard was, like, kind of borderline, where now with some of these changes, you see him in ranked a lot. Like, so I think there's an opportunity to see Hazard kind of shine through potentially here in EMEA.
Yeah, I think that like the Jagged Ball was actually subtly a lot more strong than people realized, given like the damage it did from knockback, and also just like how like hard it was to kill it. It was like 400 HP the wall had, so like trying to blow that up was really annoying. And I found it was interesting because we basically took Hazard's major perks, we nerfed them slightly, but only slightly. Like Violent Leap as a perk now, as a minor perk, is 15% increase range down from 20, so it's not that big a change. Like those are perks that really unlocked his quality of life, but those now of course been moved to minor, and he's had a sort of reconstitution went to major perks. So just a shuffle there in general. Still really, really good though. Rialto.
Yeah,
I have not cast Rialto in a hot minute, man. This is
been
such a
a
unique
while.
map.
As we take a look here for rosters, nothing different here for Qadsiah, so they'll still kind of continue with the same roster here into map number 2. We'll take a look, see if Twisted Minds has any changes. Necra, thank you for the message. Lore X for
yeah,
Necra.
she has the
There
puppy
is a
emote.
puppy emote for Risa, so I've been proven false.
I wanted to bring it up, but I couldn't remember if it was a dog or a cat, and I really didn't want to put my foot in my mouth in that regard. You know what I mean? I didn't want to.
There's zero chance that the Arisa emote crossed your mind when I mentioned that. Now you're just making things up.
No, I didn't. I play a lot of Reese. What are you talking about? No, I was thinking, yeah, but I thought it was a cat.
Yeah.
I thought she was petting a cat, so I didn't want to say it.
So
you know,
TM picks this, right? Junkertown, you wouldn't play like Hazard and kind of the things you saw them play there. Gibraltar would have been interesting, but like EMEA, like historically has not loved Gibraltar when it's been in the pool because it is so dive centric, right? So here, like Rialto gives you some options. They get rid of Tracer, as I mentioned. Tracer pretty strong in other regions, and then the Lucio gone. So without Lucio gone, maybe we see some of like Wuyong here in map number 2.
Okay, that'll be great. Obviously, this is the kind of map where we get shield tanks a lot more often in the past, and more static gameplay. And it almost feels like our Qadsiah are trying to push us further in the static direction by removing, an enabler for those like faster paced up tempo compositions. Tracer ban here, I think is pretty reasonable, right? It might be that we get a substitution. Was that what happened here for Twisted Minds? I'm not. We'll wait for confirmation on that one. No, Psycho's still in the lineup. So obviously that was a pick that we would have seen Psycho want in the past, but tons of other options here. The more airborne, the more long range hit scan get brought in here. So we see Psycho already hovering that Echo.
Yeah, which that would be a little bit of an interesting one, because Echo does get some adjustments. Like I think she actually loses like a few of the perks, right? So she like can't duplicate teammates anymore. I believe that one is gone, right? She does get an extended range on focusing beam, which is quite quite wild. And then also an ability where you can actually start, once you do a duplicate, you can start that with 50% ultimate charge already. And then obviously ultimate charge on Echo, once you get a duplicate, scales pretty fast, right? So already having 50% quite fast.
And Funny Astro will be out of the gates on Lijiang here, our newest hero in Overwatch. Already discussed it a little bit more, of course, but keep an eye out for the use of those, Guardian waves. And again, Tidal Blast is an insanely powerful ability to basically makes one of your teammates a bomb. It combos with Deeper or any other sort of dive DPS pretty effectively. And also, this damage is pretty respectable. You'll note that resource there is Lijiang's sort of direct healing resource. With right click, you can put a little Harmony-esque orb on a teammate and also channel his right click to give extra hits.
Psycho actually gets landed. Look at this. Cord's on a little bit of an off angle here on the Widow. Potentially just trying to find a pick. We do see some Widow quite often here on Rialto because the sight lines are so long. Now, Qadsiah is still not going towards like a Lijiang, right? They still want to commit to this sim type of play. So they feel like even with all of these changes here, with Season 18 coming into Stage 3, they can get away with playing a lot of what they were successful at in Stage 2.
I don't know that Qadsiah have a ton to answer Widow play right now. The fact that Checkmate is walking up on court should tell you sort of everything you need to know. That's by no means a sort of one matchup for the sim. And Checkmate's already had to opt out of it.
Yeah, there's nothing that like right, you wouldn't want Checkmate to just kind of charge this Widow down. And then obviously in terms of like the effective range, right? Qadsiah nowhere near as effective, and you're gonna lose land in here off the rip. So that is a rough loss there. It's gonna be Psycho going over the top, actually taking out Kellex. So both supports down here for Qadsiah. This should be Twisted Minds just getting this 0.1 fairly easy.
I mean, they didn't have to spend anything ult-wise to do this. Now you can also Infrasight in a moment, have that set up. Tidal Blast is now at the ready. Something that's pretty good if you attach it to Diva and have her run in and have it detonate on people. That's probably like the best recipient. Maybe Echo here. And we have a duplicate, so Psycho also can, has a bit of different options in that regard. Long and short is that Twisted Minds don't have to spend any ultimates to get that first checkpoint, and now Quartz has amazing sight lines with Infrasight active to play with. The sim wall is basically required for our Qadsiah to play the game.
And you see using that TP, right, trying to get Ziad and Checkmate in position to kind of put some pressure down on the Quartz. And great, they got Quartz, but they ended up losing 2 players on the backside, right? Ziad not able to be there to kind of help with any of that defense matrix. So in a rough spot yet again, because Twisted Mind just kind of moving away with the payload.
And that's that counter dive, right, for Twisted Minds that looks so much better. And Quartz is happy enough with a result like that if he attracts that much attention. It gives his team advantages elsewhere on the map, and if he stays alive for long enough, he's quite pleased. Switch over to the Freya, though, now for Quartz. As we start to get to a part of the map with long range is less important than maybe the ability to traverse vertically. Checkmate caught right in front of the focusing beam of Psycho is going to be picked off, and I guess that's just a Diva Bomb speculatively thrown out there, catches the less mobile Cassidy of Labda.
This has been a bit of a blowout here in favor of TM early on, right? Quartz, I love the swap here. I love the swap over to the Freya. I actually was going to say like Labda could end up making that swap. It's going to be Labda though using the Deadeye here. It's going to be a rally used by Simple. Psycho going to end up using a dupe, right? So going to get a Diva here, a second Diva out on the field. So this checkpoint though, very difficult to get, especially now that you're going to end up losing Simple.
Okay, looks like the self-destruct there for Psycho didn't quite catch on. It looked like it did go off before the duplication ended. But Kellex and Labda maybe overextend a little bit as they push up there. The shots were good off Labda, don't get me wrong. Was able to put some serious damage down on towards that Twisted Minds backline. Simple got clobbered, but Twisted Minds going to be back now with briefly a player advantage likely to work with. Sim turret set up though all across those arches on the right-hand side. So Checkmate is going to be quite the nuisance, as now a bolt shot has already been built for Quartz.
Just how does he decide to use it, right? They're just trying to put some damage down on the Ziad, but that'll be Checkmate and Ziad combining, right? Using that TP, getting in, and just collapsing on top of Simple, not able to keep him alive. So that's going to force Twisted Minds to back out. And although their offense has been really good so far, Mitch, I mean, 2 minutes now, and where this payload is, it's like such a long trek back, and then it's also such a difficult part of the map to break through.
I mean, yeah, Rialto is pretty brutal. It's one that's always picked by teams that are maybe more specialists or just have really worked on having some good strategies on the attack side for breaking these kind of parts of the map. Well, see if that is Twisted Minds for you folks, as it was their selection. I mean, come off second best on Lijiang Tower. Somehow Checkmate able to put the wall up quickly enough to stop Quartz from picking him off across the map. So that is very timely. It does though give Twisted Minds plenty of opportunity to say, you know, to opt out of this fight, given how uphill the battle would be against the wall.
Yes, but this also, even with Twisted Minds now backing out, that wall gone, it's allowed Qadsiah to build up for both support ult here, right? So that Kitsune Rush combination with the Orbital Ray, used there to kind of keep everybody alive.
Yeah, I mean, we actually saw the Tidal Blast attached again onto TVNT there, but it looks like the Orbital Ray was able to inoculate Qadsiah against that for the most part. They've shifted to what looks like a really strong defensive stance. Ziad here is mindful, of course, of that health pool and not overextending. Landon doesn't expect Psycho to drop down, but can Suzu himself and then go back to business.
So you end up burning through both of those support ults, but I feel like for Qadsiah, if you don't end up using that, you probably die to TVNT, just kind of off the explosion there with Wuyong's ult. So this does give a decisive advantage to Twisted Minds, though, right? 5 ultimates, including the rally coming in here. For Qadsiah, it feels like you're just gonna have to like find a pick early, right? Maybe take the fight, you know, using a TP, getting into that backline quite early, getting an advantage. It's gonna be Psycho actually doing a dupe here of the Kiri, already gonna start up with 50% of the ult, right? So uses that new perk, and he's gonna have a Kitsune Rush already.
Yeah, it was a matter of seconds before the Kitsune Rush came out, and it's so good with Qadsiah as well. That cooldown reduction is nuts for anybody who has low cooldowns generally. So Twisted Minds able to shove through, get themselves that second checkpoint, but losing a lot of time on this phase of the map. Again, the Kiri Juno comps got pretty good healing throughput, and it's fairly defensive when you mix a Cassidy and Sim in there. They had good high ground control, and Ziad was pretty annoying. Twisted Minds now are happy to match Divas and go for it.
I think importantly as well is they just end up having to use Psycho's dupe and getting a Kitsune Rush, kind of taking it off of that, right? You save this Bola, you save the rally, because like this very defensive comp here from Qadsiah is going to be difficult to break towards that end, especially now, right? You're going to be below a minute. There's going to be Orbital Ray and Kitsune Rush available. Simple ends up using the rally because you see Ziad actually gets to the backline, put some pressure down on him.
Rally's in play. Rush, though, active here for Qadsiah, but it's going to be Kellex falling first in this fight. TVNT affords himself a remake opportunity, as Simple has to be mindful of those turrets tickling him from behind. But it's Ziad flattening Psycho and TVNT, and that's going to be more than enough to put this one in the bag for Qadsiah. I got to say, Kellex is vomiting healing out right now. Since moving the lock-on to a minor perk, Juno really can have insane healing numbers, I think, in general now.
All right, so now we're going back to a little bit what we saw in Lijiang Tower with like Zarya in combination with Venture. So you can use the bubbles onto the Venture. They become very difficult to take out into the back line. Venture can also get rid of the Sim fairly quickly.
This just seems like frustration. An attempt at an answer against Ziad here for Twisted Minds. We've seen some pretty legendary Zarya play on the attack side of this map in this very part, but I won't go into that too more. I think, yeah, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what I'm referring to. Psycho a little bit low here. Deadeye ready and caught out under the card. Shot in the foot there by Labda. And this is looking tough now for Twisted Minds. Qadsiah still able to play so much of what makes them great at Overwatch in this sort of new era of Season 18. And they've made use of it to absolutely savage Twisted Minds. We may not be looking at as nearly a close series if this Qadsiah attack side looks anything like that.
Yes, I mean, I think it is frustration a little bit, like how you mentioned, where... So, I mean, look, but Venture Zarya is good into the Diva and Sim, right? I mean, it's two heroes that you don't want to say, like, gonna directly counter, right? But it's two heroes that can be quite effective against what you feel like is maybe being the most impactful for Qadsiah. It's just like 40 seconds on the clock, right? It's just in a difficult scenario to be able to kind of swap to that and get good results. So although it is a Twisted Minds map pick, it does feel like Qadsiah, I mean, they're firmly in the driver's seat now.
I'll have to peek the perks later on from Kellex, but I wonder if he's going with the new major perk that lets your Mediblaster just like fire constantly when you have glide boost.
Yeah, it's it basically turns when you have like that jet glide. If any of you play Juno, when you have that, you basically, it's just like an auto fire on,
yeah, it's just like
on the gun. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. So
like historically, games that have had guns that are burst, once they allow them to go auto, those become very good. So it would not be surprised if that's what he goes for.
Yeah. The other major, I think, is that triple jump off the overboots, which is actually pretty cool when you're concerned about like high mobile divers, like trying to punish your floatiness, I guess. But I don't know if that's going to be the option against this Twisted Minds comp at all. So Simple's on the Ana here on defense. She still has the bouncing biotic grenade. They're still very, very powerful. And now like the minor perk, I think, of increased movement speed for both of you off nano boost is also quite nice. So a little different, but a lot of what made it keep very powerful is still present.
We have Simple on the Ana. So Ana here on defense can obviously take some of this high ground, right, and just be very difficult to track down. I say that though, a lot of times you don't actually have a sim on the other side. Nice bio grenade actually connects on the Labdus, so that actually potentially it doesn't allow Qadsiah to push up.
Decent starting for TM. So I gotta watch out for Ziad though, who's trying to be looking to harass them as much as possible. And I get respect for Simple. Sleep comes just in time to keep Simple alive, but also with things not faring very well for Twisted Minds. And eventually Ziad will have what he came for. Yeah, Simple mowed down. Now there's a lot of work to do here over towards the car. Ziad is classically very, very healthy and Quartz really doesn't like dealing with D.Va at all.
And I mean, Ziad just so smart, right? Sees the baby D.Va on the cart, realizes that like it's not really a threat, right? He has a free kill essentially on a Quartz up on the high ground. So goes, gets rid of Quartz, and then TVNT just stuck the baby D.Va on the cart. He ends up just doubling back, taking him out as well. So able to get rid of both of those and get significant payload progress. Ziad, I mean, should be expected. I mean, his play is always sick.
Well, just a quick about this now. I think bowler shot was that. Well, towards nowhere in particular, apparently. He's trying to look for the Juno by the looks of things. Kellex able to avoid it pretty comfortably, and now Qadsiah steamroll Twisted Minds on this first point of the map. They are chilling. 4:38 to play.
Every other region was probably watching like OWCS in like Korea, Asia, was like, oh, thank God, like the sim has gone. And then Qadsiah is like, yeah, watch this. And they're just going to run it back the entire time. Look, it still looks effective to me.
Speed's here, a minor perk taking the Simple, so we'll get that movement speed on himself and the person who gets nano. He's actually freaking insane. Funny Astro's getting a wild. Talk about Raid Boss. This guy is moving at speed of knots. Now though, that Kitsune Rush thrown down by Landon. And then even Funny Astro, who did not have rally quite yet, was never able to build there. Looks scary under nano conditions, but maybe there's a better recipient on the Twisted Mind side.
Is TVNT will end up dying here late, right? So we'll see. Twisted Mind should be able to get another attempt. There's going to be TVNT going over to Hazard, right? So some changes, right, with the Hazard and the Kiri coming on in. So they want to get even more aggressive. They can put some pressure here on to like Kellex playing the Juno, but that's going to be an orbital right into the rally.
All right, they got a D.Va, Dupe, and a rally. I think can play for Funny Astro, and still they're struggling. Ziad takes Quartz out. Landon now can play from the back corner with the Deadeye. That's going to be pretty hard to accost through. Defense Matrix copied. That is going to be able to eat through the damage of Landon, but he pops out of that ultimate form, and Psycho will not be able to get airborne once more. Hit with a flashbang by the looks of things. Simple now. Yeah, this was paying too much attention to the backline to keep TVNT in the fight, and this is just the Dregs and Twisted Minds that will be slurped down by Qadsiah, who frankly are looking miles the better team. 4.5 minutes again on the clock for them, and Twisted Minds are still searching for answers. The Genji for Psycho.
And we've talked about it. The longer the sim exists in these fights, the harder it is to end up winning them. And look, when they don't get rid of Checkmate early on, regardless of if they, they trade kills on the other side of things, when Checkmate and Ziad are alive, it becomes extremely difficult to win these fights. You see how much damage TVNT takes up just on the turrets and a little bit of poke coming out of the spawn, basically.
Yeah, the Guardian Wave gives that healing amplification, but it's just not enough throughput here to keep the Hazard in the game. They're getting absolutely stomped. Checkmate with the wall in play, charged up, ready to go. Ooh. And that was almost a non-game, folks. About as one-sided as I've ever seen a map between Qadsiah and Twisted Minds, and that was TM's pick.
I was going to say, that's their, I mean, they get map pick, they get first ban, right? You feel like that's going to be like one of their best chances, right? Obviously, they'll get a shot here coming up to do that again, but man, Qadsiah just still running away with that same composition, right? Using that sim and just kind of pushing on through. It just still seems like there's no answers for it.
Kellex is the consummate heal bot, bro. Bro, it was 20k healing over a short map. Like that is not a long map for Rialto. Generally, we could have had another 5-7 minutes, of gameplay there at some point, but he has about 18,500 healing. I think like Juno's still extremely potent, and we saw on occasion, the players on Twisted Minds try and control her. I don't know what they were looking for with that flanking bowler shot on first checkpoint there. Quartz obviously had an idea, thought he might be able to catch a backline and have a solo attempt. He goes to make the play, but it doesn't work out. And this early Widow play gives them an edge out of the spawn because it's so favorable for her, but eventually it needed to be switched back to the Freya and they got ground down.
So like the Widow was really good out of the spawn, and it was really good like by that bridge area because the sight lines are so long and you're fighting at those long sight lines, right? But then like once we kind of get closer towards that second checkpoint, the Widow becomes way less effective, right? With like some of those sight lines, and then it felt like once they switched off of that, like that was like their kind of advantage gone, right? There was nothing really to do after that. So feels like Qadsiah has all of the answers. Like even the sim, like where it doesn't look great maybe at moments, like having it here where the it starts to get close quarters, right? There's no way for TM to fight through it.
Ton of like really interesting stuff to look at in this game. I mean, I think the new perks give a pretty strong discussion point. We only saw it briefly, but a speed serum, Ana's minor perk that gives a speed boost to her and the recipient of the nano boost is something that can be really degenerate, especially when you're giving it not to a brig, but like let's say a Genji or even a tank that can really benefit from it. It reminds me of the old days where I used to watch like a Roadhog running at me like 2x speed after getting nano boosted.
Yeah.
So what is like so nostalgic to me is that a lot of these perks are actually abilities or sort of things that these heroes did in yesteryear when it was like pretty unbalanced, pretty insane, getting just sort of worked in ways that like preserves the identity of the hero and even makes a callback to that. So I mean that's my boomer moment done and dusted here, but curious to see a few more of those perks get mixed in.
Yeah, you think about like Orisa with the shield, right? Obviously not a new perk, right? It was when perks were introduced, but seeing like abilities come back like that are pretty sweet.
Yeah, Sim now they worked at one of her perks that she can create a moving
shield.
barrier.
Yeah.
I mean, man, Sim got so many different like looks. I think it took.
Remember when she had two ultimates?
Yeah,
she
one
had,
was the shield
she had swap. Yeah,
and one was the TP, right? And it could be either one of them. Yeah, it used to be an ultimate, that TP. Kind of crazy to think about how the game's changed. So that is an Qadsiah win here on Rialto. And remember, we saw a Lucio ban, which I think changed a lot. Funny Astro also, probably mad about that because I think he's had some of the craziest environmental kills on Lucio on that particular map. I'm talking in like the 2 to 3k range. He's been pretty scary. So not available for our Qadsiah to ban once more. Likely to see that get mixed in. Now, we still have a number of map types available, right? We've now seen Escort. We still have Flashpoint. Like Aatlis was getting picked pretty consistently by teams in Riyadh, for example. That our newest addition to the Flashpoint pool.
New Queen Street is in as well for push, right? So we haven't seen that in what feels like ages. So new Queen Street potentially in. World Finals, like we talked about earlier, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be cold, so pack wisely. But you want to be there. I mean, dude, last year Stockholm was so sick. Outside of the kebab pizza that Zoe and I ordered, which was did you not order?
You did
kebab
that to
pizza?
yourselves, I'm pretty certain. Well, it was like a 2 a.m., 3 a.m. kebab pizza.
Look, when you,
Bro,
I don't even remember agreeing to pay for the kebab pizza. That's besides the point. But and then you also see the Watch and Earn, right? All these drops available on our stream. Commander X's stream, Tomathan. So tomorrow. So make sure you're tuning in to get those drops.
So we got a bit of Lijiang play on that map, Matthew.
Yeah.
What are your impressions having seen it now in its first OWCS game?
I want to see it more from this region because it looks vastly different than how we're seeing it used in others. I'm curious to see EMEA's take on just everything with the meta. It's interesting how they kind of all, like EMEA was talking about, after Champions Clash, like we need to be able to play like some dive. Then stage 2 was like basically just sim. And then now when you see other regions, it's like, okay, dive is like actually probably back on the menu. And then it's like, well, no, we're just going to keep playing sim. So,
which is fine until we get to an international event. And it's always,
which is what's plagued the EMEA in the past, right? Is like, okay, they don't really kind of play the style everybody else does. You're banking on, okay, making it work, and then it doesn't. I'm curious to see, like, this is obviously two teams that are pretty, I don't want to say set in their ways, right? But really, there's no reason for these two teams to make sweeping adjustments to how they play because of how good they were in EMEA, right? So it's probably more in, like, you know, the Gen G and the Visions of the world to, like, see how they kind of have a take on it, because they're going to be the ones who are going to have to, like, shake up and knock some of these tough dogs down.
Yeah, and I think, like, a huge way to do that is, like, in trying to gain an edge, right, is to try and plug into maybe some of the comps that are finding great success in other regions.
Yeah,
I think, like, I think that Gen G team is kind of interesting. Obviously, I have a reason to cheer for them now because I chose Tread as my tank for fantasy. So interesting, the effect that being in a fantasy league can have it on you. But
yeah,
Backbone's been added to that team, right? I think that the mag experiment has now come to a sad end, right? We sort of see them move away from that direction. So it's crazy that it was like 5 years of experiment, never really stopped being an experiment. But hey,
I mean, look,
the team's still good. What I'm saying, they got Exodial, they've got Who Are You, they got Backbone on that team, they got Tread now at tank, they've got a really solid backline. I'm telling you, that team is going to be much better than they have been.
Yeah, so I mean, I believe Who Are You is no longer on the team. So they do have Backbone and they do have Tread. So they have some of the players you were talking about. Okay, so this is cool. We talked a little bit about it earlier, how Chase has been added to this Qadsiah roster. We'll actually get to see him in this series. This probably tells you we're going over towards something that's like a little bit more like Chase can play like the Winston, the you know, he could play like the Doom if you wanted to, right? If you're going to play D.Va, you would keep obviously Ziad in, but potentially a little bit of a different look now here in the tank role.
We've seen Chase has even come into play. Orisa in some cases.
That's also true.
Wrecking Ball is like a possibility as well.
Ziad plays a sweet Orisa, so it's like I don't know if you would. If you were going to say, okay, this map's going to be Orisa D.Va, you wouldn't make the swap. So
the thing about Chase is that, like, it's always a little risky because Chase rarely can attend lands. As a Ukrainian citizen, it can be pretty tough to like travel right now for obvious reasons. So teams that have picked Chase up have used him as a great pinch hitter to be able to, like he was like alongside Vistola on that Ents team, for example, right? And honestly got a lot of run in one particular stage where Winston was very, very good. So Aatlis is going to be the pick. This is the kind of Flashpoint map where we saw a ton of Wrecking Ball. For example, we saw a lot of Orisa and a lot of Wrecking Ball at our mid-season championship. And as is customary on these kind of maps, we see the Lucio ban straight away. Now, Qadsiah are like, we're banning Winston.
Yeah, so interesting. So I
think they want to play ball. Is why.
Yeah, that's probably what you're going to see, right? The Lucio ban. Now you're going to go back to like the Wuyong and then maybe like a Kyrie or an Ana. Potentially, we did see TM play some Brig, right? So maybe they want to end up playing some Brig. But yes, I think with the Winston gone, right, and then taking Ziad out, you're probably looking at some type of ball response here.
I do want to say it takes a lot to make you want to sub Ziad out of the team. Tread used to be on this Qadsiah roster, right? And it wasn't long before we realized that for that meta, Ziad was definitely the better player. They ended up in Hangzhou playing Tread for what I think is... We don't know why Junkbug benched Ziad for that event. I heard potential like internal sort of stuff there. So Tread played that event and Qadsiah didn't look nearly quite as good. And Tread's a very solid player. So Qadsiah still have that option now to pair with Ziad, someone who can play these more off the wall, these more high mobility dive style tanks. And Chase already hovering the ball for us. And I think that's where we're headed.
How do you feel for Twisted Minds though, right? Seeing a ball on the other side with like Tracer. I mean, we obviously some time to make some changes, right? But like you know, their comp here going up against the ball, like Immortality Field. Okay, so they're not even gonna this is probably just a speed ring and then back to the Baptiste, right? Just to get the map spawn. So you'll actually see them. Yeah, so they're gonna play that bat with the Brick. I'm curious if they're gonna be able to keep this alive. Genji is a hero we're seeing in a lot of other regions as well. This is something more representative of what I thought we would see from the EMEA.
And now Genji's melees with the right perk reduce his dash cooldown by like 3 seconds, I want to say, per
which is wild.
It's a lot. Yeah, Matt's really happy about that one, as you can sort of tell. So Chase finds himself getting surrounded by Twisted Mind players earlier on, but Checkmate makes a beautifully executed dive in Quartz's direction. This comp is designed to be pretty effective at shutting down, you know, these high damage output backlines. Quartz already straight away switching over to Qadsiah. Just does not want to deal, with this mobility on a hero that cannot throw any hindrance in.
And then Genji also, right? So during deflect, while it's active, you can like regen like 35 HP a second, or like they added kind of like an execute, a little bit of like an execute mechanic to Swift Step. So if the character that you actually hit with the Swift Strike is below like half health, yeah, it does more damage over time.
No, yeah, you have the old bleed from Swift Strike, right?
That's like Overwatch 1 beta, like first iteration of Genji type of build.
Yeah, Genji's perks for me now are way more interesting. I think they're much more active as opposed to having like more passive effects here. So glad to see them move in that direction. Twisted Minds, though, after being unseated early on in this round, have been able to re-establish themselves relatively comfortably. Seeing Kellex here on the Lijiang this time around. Already saw him throw out a Guardian wave or two there. Well, Qadsiah do need to, I guess, prove to us that they can integrate Chase within this space of time and also make this ball comp work.
And I also think, though, for TM specifically, right, the swap over for Quartz, to go to the Qadsiah, I think that's really helped them here, obviously, after that first fight, deal with some of this aggression from Qadsiah.
All right, here's a Casino Rush, but also an Ant Matrix from the high ground for Twisted Minds. They commit the rally to this engagement as well. Now, Qadsiah, for the most part, don't really seem to be in a position to be subject to the effect of the rally. Kellex and Psycho traded out, though. That's Qadsiah now. With that, Lijiang Simple has to use this Immortality field, but in pinch is able to get TVNT back in fighting shape. So far, Twisted Minds have had good control of this round. The Wrecking Ball comp hasn't really hit the mark for Qadsiah just yet. The next flashpoint they at least walk into with a Tidal Blast, which, by the way, when you stick to Genji, it's pretty degenerate. And then we'll have a Dragon Blade as well. Yeah,
so see if Chase actually sticks on to the Doom here. I was going to say the Wrecking Ball, like you kind of alluded to, it wasn't exactly an awesome look outside of that first fight. They seem just a little bit disjointed. So we'll see if this Doom can be a little bit more impactful here, as TM, they kind of handle that ball dive very well.
I know I've been doing this a lot, but they've added a slow back to the Seismic Slam on a particular perk. So,
well, I mean, they've added a ton of perks, so it's like it feels like almost a whole new system, even though the system was added a few seasons ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting caught up here. Lapton looks like he gets the Tidal Burst there, but an Immortality field was thrown down. A funny aspect just jumps underneath it very quickly. It ultimately results in a trade. Quartz is off the map, but it's at the loss of Labta. And Checkmate might need to line up a Dragon Blade now, but doesn't have any sort of supplementary sort of support affixes to make use of it. He just has to kind of go for a naked one, which is tough against this particular backline. Simple's getting, close to another Ant Matrix now as well. We saw that in the first fight. It was pretty instrumental, drawing Chase in their direction. So far, Qadsiah have not been able to get this dive set up, but Doom is in on the point. TVNT does get knocked into that pillar there, and all of Qadsiah backing up for now.
Yes, I thought maybe we were going to see Checkmate go for the blade, as they end up losing Landon. So without like a diva in the mix, right? No ability to use like a defense matrix to keep him alive. They're going to end up losing Chase. I mean, this is worst case scenario there for Qadsiah, right? Because they're going to like sitting around the point, hoping that they would be able to regroup and then contest, and they end up all just getting wiped. But I thought there was a split second where Funny Asher ends up using the whip shot and connects on it with Checkmate, but then obviously doesn't have rally. Checkmate doesn't know that, but then doesn't have whip shot, so an opportunity to go in with that blade, but decides to hold on to it. And now this could be just one fight that decides this point for TM.
Yeah, I mean, Qadsiah struggled really for a foothold once more. And Immortality field answers the pulse bomb of Labda, but Psychos is effective. Kellex doesn't have the mobility to get him out of that situation, and Checkmate finally had to go for the blade, but as expected, there was a rally that stopped it. There's not a whole lot to back it up if your Lijiang ultimate is not online, and that's 2 flashpoints to Twisted Minds, honestly, in pretty dominant fashion.
Yeah, maybe this is why Qadsiah is just playing the sim. It's not been a good look here. For them playing this kind of Doomfist orb ball type dive on Aatlis, is this map could be over really fast. Labda gonna end up playing the sim, so going and try and work it in here with the Doom and Genji. It's a very odd look.
Yeah, this comp is rough. I think for Qadsiah, maybe being forced into this position as the Wrecking Ball against against Brig Bap, Cassidy, the Wrecking Ball can struggle. There are definitely a cohort of abilities that can make life a lot more painful for the otherwise highly mobile, very durable tank. Looks like caught out on the point here, though, was TVNT, and Simple attempted an air matrix to try and keep him in the fight, but it was a little bit too late for that.
So We'll see if they can actually kind of string a few fights together, right? So TVNT actually mentioned going over to the Zarya here yet again. So a lot of Zarya here early on from Twisted Minds. The Zarya can be even better, right, to help like protect that backline with like some of the bubbles, kind of keeping them alive, turning that defense into offense. Is Chase just getting pressured out with some right clicks there.
Still trying to work his way into the backline. Might be a pretty good recipient for a title blast. Nice punch on the Funny Astro, though. That's instantly going to draw the Zarya bubbles out. Quartz in trouble. Immortality Field had to be used there. And the Dragon Blade gets popped by Checkmate as he sees the drone already get used up, but he gets caught out, frankly. Oh my goodness. Oh, buddy. That's nasty stuff. Seismic Slam accounts for 2. Chase dominates them there, and I think there was a title blast on him as well, in case there was any more needed.
Yeah, I mean, you could also see both those players extremely low as he was going to come down with that meteor strike. So you could almost see that one coming. So Qadsiah not done just
Not
yet.
bad.
They will get a flashpoint here. Yup. It's Twisted Minds. We'll see if there's any more changes they can make in response to this. But it looks like Qadsiah continue to run with this. They're going to actually have this Kitsune rush, Mitch, to kick off this next fight. And they'll end up having that sim wall, so an opportunity here for them to kind of parlay this into a second point.
Just some of these mechanics from Chase is really impressive. Unfortunately, the pulse bomb will still be the end of him. Not much he can really do to answer that, but at the very least, Funny Astro eats a water orb from Kellex and is taken down. Those channeled sort of left click orbs from Rialto do hit pretty darn hard if you can land them. So now, it ends up being a trade. Qadsiah have point priority here, and TVNT is not feeling confident about coming forward, especially with only 20% of his health remaining. So we'll be forced back and away, allowing Qadsiah to take control first and chases back to the ball mat.
Yeah, back to the ball in combination with the Sim Genji. So we saw them a little bit earlier there, using it with the Tracer. A much different look here. Let's see if, nope, it's going to be Twisted Mind just backing on out there. They end up using the rally there, Twisted Mind. So at least for Qadsiah, right, you get a slam of the ball, a pile drive, and then you get that ultimate out. It's quite massive.
Title blast used it by Kellex. I think it might have been on Checkmate, if I'm not mistaken. Immortality Field down. Graviton Surge, though, still a powerful ultimate in the current year. And most of Qadsiah are sucked into the middle of that, giving Twisted Minds a clean fight win, but already over half of the point ceded to their opponents.
And you would look out like that and be like, how in the world are you gonna grab that big, right? But everybody on Qadsiah trying to like work across that right-hand side and put pressure up on the high ground, and just TVNT and Co. able to keep themselves alive. So Labda actually was hovering over the far, and now going to go back to the sim here. So looked like maybe it was going to be in response to something that TM was going to do, but going to bring that sim right back on in here, as it looks like Twisted Mind's going to get close to taking the lead.
Oh, there's the grenades having an impact there. The flashbang on Chase hinders him, but he's got the mobility to run away and just start to scoop up all of his health packs, and TVNT realizes pretty quickly that he's not going to be able to finish the job. Psycho here pops that TP, but it's already been made use of. Chase eventually went down, but Quartz finished. Blade out from Checkmate. This time, oh, buddy, that is big value. That's an absolute jackpot and should be a point flip back.
They desperately needed that, right? Because they end up losing Chase early on. We were on board with him, and like he gets hit with a mag grenade, he gets slowed, he tries to like go for all these health packs, still ends up dying to the gas of Quartz. So even with all the health pack and the mobility, not able to get away from the Cassidy, plus like having some of that other CC they have there. Oh, that is a sick knockoff there from Chase.
He's dead-eyeing at the time as well. That was so well put together. There's a pile driver that comes in, Kitsune rush, and then Checkmate flies on through. Sick from Qadsiah. Such a well-executed dive. And now they're in position to take away the series here. Reverse sweeping in flashpoints now as we head to our final stage. I think it's Station.
This would be a rough map to lose for Twisted Minds. I mean, you were in pretty much a commanding position, right? Up 2-0 in terms of flashpoints, and then to just kind of give it away here towards the end, and then to lose 3-0 the first match. Obviously still a ton to play in for stage 3, but up against who you kind of would think is going to be standing in front of you for the top of EMEA would be a really rough loss.
Chase there knocks sideward by a whip shot with the looks of things. They're looking for a power drive connection. Still now with the symbol in play. This is pretty powerful. Kellex, Title Blast has been activated. Labda here low, eventually going to get taken down the front line. It's almost to be expected here, and it's a fight where Qadsiah of every ultimate they could dream of And still they're not getting brought down. Simple with a very strong air matrix in a position that's a little bit hard to assail for Qadsiah. Clean win for Twisted Minds.
I was going to say, that actually started off really well for Qadsiah. They just didn't account for Simple on an off angle with an air matrix, right? They end up getting a minefield down in a pretty good spot in combination with a sim wall, and then Funny Astro actually has a rally going, and there's no way they can kind of push forward with it, but the Ant Matrix put in a really great position from Simple up on the high ground, allows him to come up with some damage.
The guy has more healing than all of Qadsiah's healers put together.
Yeah, that's not surprising, to be honest. I mean, Qadsiah is really like, these fights are going, they want these fights to go fast in either direction, right? In a win for them or a loss, right?
Feels like there's some risk associated, but here's a blade again for checkmate. Simple fell, and Funny Astro goes down as well. And that's probably enough, I think, if you're talking about Dragon Blade equity, but Cycle is still running right over the point, and, well, TVNT's still in play, so Qadsiah with only a Tracer and a Wrecking Ball to work with here, the best they could do is try and contest this, but with TVNT going down, surely it's Psycho calling it quits.
Oh, he's going to try and get a touch here. Going to kind of keep it contested. That's going to be the Pulse Bomb as well used there by Psycho. Maybe seeing if he can get like a little bit of a drive-by there onto Chase. But they're actually going to end up using the Deadeye. They want to try and get this to 99, I think.
Just a good angle for Quartz, man. Checkmate forced him to deflect now as the Tumbleweed do fly. Quartz won't have the duration left to make a kill after that. Now the mag grenade connection though went on the Wrecking Ball now. Pulse Bomb thrown down. Laptors on the safe side of the wall, but definitely still under some pressure. Pulse Bomb didn't connect. Now Downpour ready for TVNT. Crucially though, Qadsiah have control of the point and a chance now to have an impromptu setup. Over the top, minefield. It's going to be a Downpour to hold the Wrecking Ball in place there. TVNT though goes low. Guardian Wave starts to cut through, and there's the perk that allows it to go back and forth. So 2 knockups potentially for the Wuyang. Makes it really hard to be undisrupted midway through these fights. Now also Tidal Blast is there. Calyx holding onto it though, knows it's going to have to be a longer stretch for Alcad to hold on.
Dude. And that was actually a pretty sick play from TVNT. He actually gets a Downpour, survives the minefield, and then actually jumps back towards Chase, uses a wall to kind of like lock him in the room, but there's nobody there to kind of put damage down on the Wrecking Ball, and Chase is able to live.
Rally straight away. Laptor caught out by the hindrance there. Tidal Blast though. Knockdown, very powerful. Immortality Field though protects Twisted Minds from the damage component of it. And Checkmate at least gets in to find one he needs more, and he knows it. He's going for it. Simple spotted there behind the hazard, but getting through the spike block is, well, it's a big ask. It's just Chase here, I think. It looks like Twisted Minds may have done enough to win the map as the Wrecking Ball is now no longer able to stall. It's on Laptor to try and elongate this fight. It's definitely a close but no cigar situation now as Laptor goes down to that spike guard, and Twisted Minds stay alive in the series.
Barely though. I mean, they have to battle back in the end. It started off really well for TM, right? They go up 2-0 in terms of flash points, and then towards the very end, it's Qadsiah battling back. So they bring in Chase, they try and get a little bit of a different look there with some Ball and some Doom. Doesn't exactly work out in the end, but I think Qadsiah just showing that they have different looks they can go to depending on the roster.
Yeah, look, I'm glad we got to see that piece from them. I think it's great that we get to see it debuted so early on in the series, and Aatlis is definitely a map where Wrecking Ball finds a ton of success. There's so much to sort of make use of in terms of terrain and people grouping up. There's a lot of smaller chokes where those power drivers look very good, and also minefields can get great coverage here. I think though that playing into the Cassidy is always going to be tough. You're also playing into Quartz, which makes things even more difficult. But look at this scoreboard. Look at this showing from Simple. 22,000 healing and a really respectable amount of damage. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're getting your comps are designed to do very different things. And Twisted Minds comp is designed to play a little closer together, which really benefits the Baptiste here. But it's pretty hard to get through that level of raw throughput.
No, I mean, look, with Baptiste, you can do stuff like that. You can have crazy games like that, especially if you're just trying to exist through some of these dives, right? That regenerative burst, like healing through that AM matrix. So Simple just putting up a crazy performance there, going to out heal the Kiri and the Wuyang pretty substantially. So see here, this is a nice graph that we were talking about where they tried to dive towards that high ground and then get caught in it, but Simple with a huge play.
Yeah, and look, Checkmate had to do a lot with pretty little in some cases. This Dragon Blade against a Kiri Bat composition is really difficult. And Cassidy in the mix. I probably think that's about as hostile as it can get for Genji players in general. But Qadsiah, like, they wanted to go with this full dive setup, and I appreciate it. I think looking at the title blast impact for Kellex, it's kind of hard to see because there's very often an immortality field thrown down to answer that. And it doesn't do a ton of damage. It's just like 100 damage, I think. But it's a 1.5 second knockdown, which is the scariest part. But when you have, you know, a backline like Twisted Minds had, you can very quickly make sure people are healed up, even if they are disrupted, knocked down. And in those longer fights, we see the Wrecking Ball comps start to fall apart because it's one thing to set up the first dive, right? All your pieces are in place. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, we're like 2 minutes into the fight or whatever. We're in like a 3v4. How does this comp work now? Outside of idealized conditions. How does this work after we've actually tried to dive them and we tried to regroup and now we need to do it again? And I think that's why it's just really challenging to make this work.
Yeah, and they weren't able to make it work in the end, right? So you see TM, they take Aatlis there. They prevent themselves from getting swept. Obviously, now it's an Qadsiah map pick. Would be their map pick pretty much the rest of the way if we get to that fifth and final game. But look, you can bring back in Ziad here, right? You have a choice of map, right, between hybrid and push in terms of what you want to go to. And you can bring back in some of those like Diva sim comps, right? You can like, do you ban a Zarya? Do you ban a Hazard, right? There's a few different things they can do to kind of make it even a little bit easier on themselves.
I wonder if we're in an era of like these more dive comps where we might actually get to see Hollywood picked at all. It's such a rare thing at hybrid to get worked in, right? I think obviously King's Row is still in the pool. That probably represents a much more reasonable pick. Also, I can
King's Row is like always in the pool, I feel like.
It's a real Twisted Minds home ground as well. So I don't know if Qadsiah are looking to pick that map, but I can also you know, a great option to mix in here. I just wonder, like, if you are trying to play, we saw Winston banned, by the way, so obviously, you know, Qadsiah didn't want to bring Chase in to play that particular role, but that's obviously historically been very good for, you know, dive comps. There's just so much verticality on that second phase of the map, but teams just are not really showing a preference to take us to Hollywood actually for quite some time. It was in the pool, I want to say, in mid-season madness, even prior to that, but yeah, it's very rare to see it. And I think when we did, we saw like the first point and ended up being a full
we like rarely saw it go the distance. You know, when we did see it, it was pretty much like one and done. Maybe you actually take the first point, then it just ends. But Ziad coming back in there for Chase. So we see Chase for just a brief moment here from Qadsiah, and then look, going back to Ziad, this is also like we've seen this historically in Overwatch in the past. Like you kind of pick up a tank, you try and work him in, and then you're like, maybe we just kind of keep doing what we were doing, right? You think even back to VP, right? Last stage, right? They bring in Ice Gnome to try and make a little bit of a different look, right? And eventually they were just like, you know what, let's just play Vestola because that works. So we'll see. We'll see how much we'll get from Chase throughout here in stage 3, but good to see him here early on. And then yes, we will go to King's Row. So Ike involved in Hollywood, not the flavor here for Qadsiah. Qadsiah, they'll get rid of the Pharah and then a Diva ban. I'm surprised that they left that tank role potentially open to have Ziad's Diva get banned out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we might. Do we end up going for hazard comps on this kind of map then? We're probably seeing, or at least so far today, we're seeing less of, I think as Matt described it earlier on, the boots on the ground looks, the rush compositions. We did see a lot of Ramatra, a lot of Diva looks getting mixed in. This is the kind of map also where Mei was very powerful, controlling the chokes and also just adding her Blizzard into the mix, and also an ability that straight up countered Annihilation. Ramatra's in an interesting spot where he has now a perk that allows him to increase the duration of Nemesis form and Annihilation when he gets eliminations, which is interesting. It's not too powerful, but it's kind of fun to see like that Nemesis form extended. Maybe makes it feel more like it's just a survival cooldown or for the speed boost. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Pharah taking off here. Twisted Minds obviously have Psycho here in the game still, and there's always a threat, always relevant on this map. So it's a pretty reasonable first ban from them.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, do you see Ramatra? Do you see them play like a Hazard, a Diva? Not Diva, I was going to say Orisa, right? So some options potentially. Looks like Twisted Minds here will be on D, so they'll be ended up piloting the Hazard, which has been quite effective for them throughout the series.
Yeah, I think that, his ability obviously to make those traversals with a lot of the verticality, especially on this first stage of the map, might be pretty desirable for Twisted Minds. Also, you got to attack the Cassidy's position here, I think, if you're defending. If Labda tries to get up on the high ground, someone needs to be able to answer that. Psycho maybe not the answer because of the, the flashbang is pretty scary for them. Qadsiah is going to be on the Sojourn, which I think is one of their best looks, and obviously wins the range matchup against Qadsiah, who, with the comp they've got here, Matt, and the Orisa, they want to close the gap. They want to get to a pretty mid-range engagement. Simple just get owned. What?
Yeah, I think that's actually a spear that connects onto Simple, sends him back through the wall, and then just some firing down the alley there from Ziad. So crazy pickoff from Ziad. I thought, like I was talking about, like, do you see them play like the Orisa? Orisa also pretty good in a hazard, right? Can use a spear to knock him back, interrupt, like dislodge him from position. So not the worst pick, especially when you expect your opponent to play some hazard. And that is a really fast point, a take there for Qadsiah.
I mean, the game plan about taking space gets so much easier when the Kiriko is down. It's obviously the dream pick, and it's something that decides to fight instantly. But we saw that in the past. Like, the Javelins used to be used to set up like easy railgun kits as well, in the same vein that Wrecking Ball's pile driving knockup will really help Sojourn get almost free kills. So Twisted Minds are trying to make use of this high ground now. Alcad do not have control of it. Don't have the best comp to really leverage it unless they, get Cassidy toddling his way up the stairwell, but they would likely play close to the cart and give Psycho opportunities like this. He'll have no shortage of flank routes to get in and start to harass. But timing is important, and also linking up with TVNT when push comes to shove is going to matter a heck of a lot. Qadsiah, though, do they have the healing throughput to get them through this extreme poke damage? They don't. Twisted Minds have a much better comp at keeping him at arm's length, and they're able to dominate them in the choke.
Yeah, you can see Qadsiah just getting pushed back into that corner, and you can see the health bars at the top of the screen just start to whittle down as Psycho doesn't even have to go in, right? Just stay at a safe range, right? Put down some damage. You're seeing TVNT and Quartz doing it from the other side, and eventually Qadsiah just going to rot out, essentially, over in that corner.
Same play again. Qadsiah probably need to try and close the gap, but on where? That's the problem. It's just TVNT in their face, and then every other component of the defensive comp is like playing from high ground or off to the side. They're really hard to catch. Simul's going to help with the poke, though, coming in from off screen. And Labda's able to double down here, playing close towards that left side in that library area. A third kill for the Cassidy. And finally, Qadsiah are able to break through this rather oppressive choke scenario, but it's heavy spend. 4 ultimates committed to that engagement to get them going here.
And Ziad get into like that close quarter area and end up using the Terror Surge, putting down some damage with that. They had the sound barrier rolling at the time. I also want to point out for Ziad, right, using one of those new perks where when he's got Fortify active, like, there's no movement speed reduction and there's no heat generation on the gun. So like that's essentially putting Orisa in a spot with like unlimited ammo.
Yeah, I mean, they brought that back, right? So that obviously used to be a feature of Fortify, which they've sort of had removed, but the lack of movement speed reduction is pretty fantastic, because really what Orisa wants to do under Fortify conditions is close that gap or to get out. So allowing her still to have that component baked into the ability, very powerful. But Twisted Minds here behind, again, a bank of ultimates they'd sat on, they developed for quite some time, are dishing it out. And now Qadsiah, look, I mean, they are the ones that chose Twisted Minds' map here of King's Road. This has definitely been one of the stronger ones for TM, and I guess, in absence of any of the other alternatives, they knew they'd be fighting into a team very comfortable, especially starting on defense.
I mean, I do like the decision by TM to kind of like chase there, right? Not allow Ziad to just kind of, get out and move to safety. I mean, look at this position from Quartz. I don't know how you keep Ziad alive. They have to TP him out of the way just to give him some health back. TM doing a nice job here trying to take the fight in these chokes.
That's nice, though. They take a quick beat there, right? They back up, get a Kitsune rush set up, and they just charge on in again. Great example of this comp that really can fight closely if they need to, especially with Psycho moving now in that Genji direction. And Qadsiah have the sim so they can contest some of those high ground positions that otherwise weren't able to go for. But I think it's just not coming together for them as they, again, have to play in the choke.
It's still, well, I was going to say it's not that far, but you see how far the payload has actually moved back, right? They had like 87 meters there, very close towards the second checkpoint, but a few fight wins in a row for TM, just kind of pushed the payload all the way back. They're looking to see if they can actually kind of catch somebody out on the high ground here. Oh, and that's a really nice TP. Downpour, though, it's going to connect with a few players.
TVNT only sees 3 players caught in downpour. I mean, it is pretty hard to get that level of coverage on that ultimate at times. Sound barrier has to be thrown in by Kelex. They've only lost Checkmate. Lab still in fighting form, as is Ziad. Terror Surge allowed him to catch up TVNT. And Twisted Minds, well, it looked like they had a great setup, but a sound barrier and a downpour of their own end up getting blown out.
And I think this is going to be checkpoint here for Qadsiah. We'll see if Twisted Minds actually can kind of maybe get here. Get another fight. It looks like actually TVNT just getting around that corner. Looks like they're going to actually get a contest here. And they do have Psycho's Blade with no sound barrier response on the other side.
Calls back up here. Got that Jagger Ball in the way to some degree, but it's not enough to prevent him from finding Checkmate. Blade come out. That was 2 DPS ultimates held in reserve by Twisted Minds. And I think it's safe to say, Matt, they find the perfect time to make use of them. Qadsiah on the precipice of that second checkpoint being picked up. Now we'll have to fight for it again with under a minute left.
And think about how good Twisted Minds was on D, like kind of playing in this streets area, in this like close quarter area behind like the Genji and the Hazard, right? You force Qadsiah to kind of take a lot of poke damage here through that. They get nice jacket ball there, actually splits a few of the members, and they get Ziad. That is a massive play there by TVNT.
It also puts them in a really uncomfortable spot now. One more chance to stay in the map here for Qadsiah. And no press Q to win strategy at their fingertips either. Twisted Minds once more will just set the playing field to advantage Sojourn as much as humanly possible. Lab just had to switch over towards the Tracer here. Qadsiah already priced into a late touch because there's a lot of map to cover. With only 6 seconds left, Ziad is getting torn to shreds as he tries to advance. Now throws a javelin spin in, but the healing isn't there. Lucio Kiriko cannot get Orisa back to fighting form after taking 80% of her health in damage. So Twisted Minds slam the door in Alcad's face.
Well, that's one of the rough parts about the Orisa, right? Is like Orisa doesn't generally do great against like poke. Like once the fortify and shield, the spear spin are gone, and you don't pick into shield, when the armor is gone, she just chunks down. Especially playing up against like a Sojourn like Quartz, right? A railgun shot or two puts you back to like no armor, and then you just disappear with how good these teams are.
Quartz is having a bit of a game, folks. Only 3 deaths and 8.2.
He's been having a game the entire series. He's been sick.
That's a great point. I mean, he's had pretty insane output. He and Simple, of course, definitely 2 players who draw your eye if you want to talk star power on this Twisted Mind squad. And they're looking like now they're positioned to do the funny thing, the traditional thing between Twisted Minds and Arcade, which is to play a map 5. Feels like we don't get a matchup between these two without it going all the way. And it's nice to see, even if much has changed in the game, that aspect has remained consistent.
Well, if you think back, right? This match was obviously the one that kicked off stage 2 in EMEA. Yeah. Qadsiah wins it. But like after that, these two teams are like really close in terms of like maps. Like Twisted Minds and Qadsiah are not really losing, like not even series, like maps to anybody else. So you see these two teams like obviously playing a really close series here. There could be a gap between these two teams and the rest once we get into stage 3. So curious to see how the rest is leveled up here to battle these two teams.
I think, yeah, even throughout the stage, we had a feeling we'd be looking at TM and Qadsiah once again towards the end of things. We'll have you with some game audio in just a moment, folks. For now, enjoy some folk music. It's going to be course picked up by Labda, though. He's playing inside the Alderworth Hotel, so pretty far forward position for the Cassidy to be, but getting that connection onto the Sojourn is massive. Confidence brimming, at least at the start of the round for Qadsiah, but now starting to maybe trickle away somewhat. The Zarya here for Ziad, able to bully their way through.
Yeah, the Zarya here can protect the Sim a little bit, and then also just kind of like chunk down that Hazard, just try and put down some serious damage on him. I'm surprised we actually haven't seen Labda play much Sojourn throughout this series. It's been a lot of Cassidy. His Sojourn's quite good, so see here, it's Ziad actually gets out onto the point. It'll be Qadsiah on defense now.
I'll have that sort of view in just a moment. Psycho and TVNT out of the picture here. This is a very, very confident defense, and Qadsiah on this side of the map can really make use of the hotel to push up very close and get Zarya in a position where she's always generating that charge, because she is glowing right now. So absolutely vomiting damage out, and we have Landon very quickly building towards the Qadsiah rush.
And it seems like that when TVNT goes in, like Ziad's not really even worried about him, just using the bubbles and just pushing straight on pass and just going for that back line. That is huge. I mean, you get rid of Quartz. This is going to stop them from moving up here at all. And look at how aggressive, look at the damage that he's putting down on the Funny Astro and Co. as they're trying to run away.
Ziad here is getting 3 ult charge now. Basically, Twisted Minds have to be pretty quick about this. So they're running into Ziad at like minimum 70, 80 charge after the previous fight. So Zaya, at this stage, with no lulls in fighting because no checkpoints being taken, is always going to be hitting hard. That's a barrier, though, pushed out of Ziad now. Both have to be used, and Ziad's barely alive. They go for a grab. Can it be followed up upon, though? With the sound barrier of Funny Astro in play, it's going to be impossible. And it's just a mild overextension. Can it be recovered from? Because TVNT's been felled, and Lapter is still at large. This guy, quite the bounty on his head, forces Quartz off that high ground sideline. An absolute menace right now in the DPS matchup.
Man, they are quite fortunate, right, to win that one. Ziad just playing so aggressive. I think he thought he was going to be able to like use the bubbles and get out with his life, and then the Kitsune Rush was going to kind of like start to cycle those cooldowns. He was going to be able to live. Did not work out that way. Right before he died, just chucks out the grab, and it's actually pretty good connects with a few players. And I think that just buys him enough time with that sim wall as well to put down the damage. And Twisted Minds here, you're going to be below a minute here on your offense as Qadsiah putting together a tremendous D.
Overclock here, though, should be able to burst the down. No bubbles left. Yeah, Quartz this time allowed to play the video game. And we know he does it quite well. Lapter has to respect these railguns that come through. Now the map gets flipped to a degree. Qadsiah with 4 can still fight for this, but so much requires Lapter to connect these headshots and complete these kills very quickly, and he has to take a big risk just to get Funny Astro. It's cooked there. I mean, we've been talking about how close these teams have played each other. It wasn't just at the opening of stage 2, it was also in that playoffs as well, right? They meet in an upper final, also in a best of 5, and then in the grand final ends up going to 6. So these guys almost always taking it to the very limit.
And now we'll see if Qadsiah can get a hold here on D. We see where that golden box of victory is. They do give themselves a great opportunity, Mitch, with how good their first point defense was, right? I mean, being able to hold that long gives him an opportunity here to like just kind of use his Zarya in the choke and just burn clock, essentially.
Consider rush comment is a little bit harder, though. I think the fight's going to get taken to Qadsiah. Twisted Minds, though, they both have them in play. And guess what? It's Lapter on Quartz again. That's exactly, if you're an Qadsiah fan, the combination on the kill streak that you want to see. Ziad's still relevant in this game, and now the sound barrier in play. Qadsiah is going to be hitting like an absolute truck. Psycho that goes for a dupe. And already 50% of charge. Graviton very powerful inside that dupe form, and Psycho will have the time to build it up. To say nothing of an opportunity to make use of it.
I mean, they're just on the chase here, just trying to find anybody. They do end up taking out Checkmate. No, don't get the grab off. So that is a rough fight there for Qadsiah. They end up burning that sound barrier here. Sound barrier used by Funny Astro. They want to push forward, get rid of Ziad because they feel like this is the game.
You see, so much of this game revolves around finding the opportunities to burst the Zarya down, but you know, you're starting to stretch those barrier resources thin. Ziad can be popped pretty easily. Simul in play, they're going to go for it here. Downpour, though, at a pretty good spot. And Kellex touched, in theory, maybe was a little bit too far off the card, and so Twisted Minds have done it. A wild rush through the second phase of the map to take us to a decider.
Yeah, in theory, he touched. I like the way you put that. In theory, he got there, but it looked like just maybe a split second too late, or knocked off with the wall. So we are going to go to a game 5 between these two teams. Where it looked like Qadsiah was just going to run away with it, right? We have a reverse sweep potential here for TM, and we just have push to be selected. So I believe it's a new Queen Street, and I think Esperance. We'll have to take a look at the pool yet again, but taking a look at some of the stats, dude, Quartz has been on one the entire series.
I think the last time that Twisted Minds beat Qadsiah, was it in the Saudi League before stage 2?
That is
because these guys have always played each other close, but Twisted Minds have not been winning. It's been like 3-2s. With Twisted Minds on the receiving end of it. That
would put it back in like May, June territory, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that would be
unless there's been like
a long time.
Unless there's been any like off-season play between these guys sort of since then, but I'm not aware of anything to that effect. So it's a rare thing. It's a very common thing to see at a 5 mapper or a 6-7 mapper between these two. Far less so for Twisted Minds to ultimately take the series, and I'm sure it probably is in the back of their minds. I'm sure that sort of plays on them a little bit here. But Qadsiah, a strong start, a really confident defense, but as soon as start of the cracks in the armor start to appear, as soon as some of the cracks in the Zarya bubble start to appear, this play here, where Ziad pops an early bubble, tries to back away, Kitsune rush for an out for the extra throughput. There's a little bit of fragility to the Kiri Lucio comps where they can't really get that massive burst of healing back in play.
And I'm curious what Qadsiah decides to do ban-wise. We'll have to take a look at the kind of series set, but no, would you ban Hazard here if you're Qadsiah? For this final game, right? Get rid of the Hazard so you can consistently play like it's a D.Va head-to-head, right? That you'd be looking at that moment. That's probably what you're thinking about. And oh, look at that. Actually, it's the Jagged Wall plus the downpour that actually catches him in the corner. So it doesn't allow him to get there and contest. Great catch there.
Yeah, I mean, if we head to New Queen Street, I think the kind of map where maybe Hazard feels much more reasonable. Almost feels in some ways it's kind of built for that level of vertical mobility. But we've also seen a lot of comps on that map that really are agnostic to trying to access high ground. Sojourn's obviously going to be really potent there. I'm curious to see if we keep seeing Lambda just fall to Cassidy into this matchup, because we saw how good it was early on. Once the map allowed for the range to, or rather for some distance to be closed, the Cassidy was able to like 2-shot, 3-shot the Sojourn right at the start of these fights. But you can see as the game starts to break down, Twisted Minds really build some sick momentum, and they don't really get caught up in that choke in the second phase too long. I think that's the big difference. They might struggle with capping that first point, but after that they are chilling.
Yeah, they never really got a fight Qadsiah where they were able to like get that Zarya to the choke, right, and just kind of like lock them in. It was a really nice job by Twisted Minds to just realize like we cannot get stuck here and like use Kitsune Rush and speed and get right on through. I think also like the duplicate to get Zarya there for Psycho's quite massive. So big plays all around for TM as they're mounting a pretty serious comeback here. I mean, this would be we were talking about how a rough loss this would be for TM if they were to go down 0-3. But now the ability to reverse sweep, I mean, a brutal scenario here for Qadsiah.
Yeah, like we talked about it, that Qadsiah chose this King's Row map, knowing sort of full well that in the past Twisted Minds have been really comfortable here. But the other options feel a little volatile, right? Like what is Eichenwalde supposed to look like? God forbid.
Yeah, I don't think you're picking either of those.
Map.
Yes.
No. So the fact that King's Row remains in the hybrid part of the map pool means you're going to see a fair bit of it over the course of this stage, folks. But I'm not complaining too much. That was a pretty lively game with two pretty drastically different comps. I'll note that May's not really making any appearances here. I think, without May, Ramatra, and Sigma compositions sort of being used, there's not a ton of reason to fold her in. So it's really that high damage, hit scan pressure we're seeing. Teams are opting very much into Cassidy Sojourn and less of Freya even after she was banned in the first map. We're not seeing a ton of that here.
Yeah, I don't really see like Freya when she can kind of get airborne, right? It's probably where she's the most successful, but also like a fairly easy target for D.Va, especially now that D.Va like has that perk that can kind of shorten the spread, right? Like just kind of like mow her down. So we're gonna see them go to chase here in Game 5. I mean, that's one I didn't expect to see.
We're heading to Esperanza for our next map, so I guess that at least appears to be the case looking at the lobby. So we'll see if that's where we end up going. So obviously it's a great map for any of those sort of dive tanks. Doomfist has been spotted here on many an occasion. I think though, like Wrecking Ball or Winston may be a little bit more common. I don't know if there's an option here, I think, for a Winston ban from Twisted Minds. Because the last Winston ban was from Qadsiah, so curious to see what that's supposed to look like. I think Wrecking Ball here still looks pretty good. I don't know what you're thinking. Yeah, it's a pretty big risk, right, to bring Chase back in here after the Aatlis struggles were pretty clear to see. And that's it. Esperanza and New Queen Street are your picks here, and that's where Qadsiah choose to go.
Yeah, I mean, so if you want to play Winston, I think you have to ban a tank if you're Qadsiah, right? I mean, to protect it. If we've already seen that kind of be gone, right? So I think that's kind of the position you're in. It's a really odd spot to be in.
Protect here.
I think with chasing though, you definitely want to play ball. You want to play like a Winston, something along those lines, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to look very different to Aatlis as well. As like that's obviously a constantly shifting environment where it's a bit more static here on Esperanza. You are playing around those bridges, around those high grounds. Doomfist again really can have some potential, especially now with the slow that's been brought in and the perks have sort of been adjusted. I think a lot of this is making me wonder if we see Lijiang brought in yet again, combined with some sort of dive tank, because so far we haven't exactly seen the most impactful title blasts, or at least not ones that are easy to spot.
But it feels like even when you went and played some of those comps, if you were chasing Qadsiah, like they played Hazard and it was just something you weren't able to deal with, right? Where I think you got to kind of look at like a tank like Protect, you know, potential ban here for Qadsiah to kick things off.
I think also Simple was just running away with the game on the Baptiste. And I think, you know, Twisted Minds also, or rather, Qadsiah know how to hit shift. So they were obviously aware just of how much room the Baptiste was given. And that's a huge component of what allows them to pop off like that. And they have a consummate professional Baptiste player on their team in Landon, one of the best in the world when it comes to that. So,
okay, so a Soj ban here for Qadsiah, right? This makes sense because that's kind of what Quartz was going to the entire time. Lambda clearly just wants to end up playing the Cassidy. For Twisted Minds to get rid of the Ramatra, I'd also like to point out that Chase is not in. So Ziad in the game here still for Qadsiah. So with Ziad in the game and Chase not coming back in, this makes a lot more sense.
Okay. Debated by the substitution graphic there. No worries. So TVNT will be on the Hazard, Ziad on the Diva. This is, I mean, this is straight out of stage 2 compositioning from mostly from Qadsiah, so less of Psycho then, but he's the go-to right now. It's going to be up on that Genji. Going to be Brig and Juno folded in here. Of course, Lambda will get a match he probably feels better about. I think going up against the Freya over the Sojourn is probably fine with here. Qadsiah's composition really want to make use of that mobility of the Sim TPs as well. Quartz has found a nice little off angle though, being a bit of a nuisance here. Well, those aim shots, yep, explosive bolts with some damage can be spread and followed up upon by TVNT, who is though traded out. And then once you take the fight to this pretty defensive Qadsiah core, you have to suffer the wrath of the Cass.
Yeah, and the Cassidy inside of this close quarter area, not the hero you want to be fighting, especially you see Psycho there on the Genji trying to make a play. Quartz actually takes him out there with an explosive at the end, but you do not want to be in that type of situation, right? Ziad in Baby Diva form,
not great either.
Just going to move that car. We'll actually see Quartz going to go over to Ash, so this is a hero we haven't seen in a bit, but now getting some of that dynamite like heal pressure, very interesting selection.
This is actually pretty bad for Ziad. You are giving up a huge amount of ground here for free. You might even allow Qadsiah just to, rather Twisted Minds to catch up on your total because your Diva can't do the thing. If Ziad dies before they get a remake as well, that's even worse. The threat, of course, of the damage off.
Oh, okay, well, come on.
Oh, no. Surely tracking that, there would be a Diva remake at some point. That's perfectly timed. Ziad is such a jokester, man. That's rough. Okay. Well, everything I said about it being bad.
But, I mean, Psycho just gets, squashed there by the remake. So, Psycho now going to go back and play Tracer, right? So we see some Genji, some Tracer, now some Tracer, and then Quartz. He started on Freya, then a spawn on Ash, now over to Cassidy. So Quartz, I think, just trying to get comfortable with what hit scan they want to work with here on Esperanza, as it seems like I can't figure it out just yet.
Yeah. Maybe something that works a little bit more with this Brig, perhaps stay a little bit closer, benefit from Inspire procs, and hit hard anyone who tries to take the fight to you. So Consider Rush was used here. To what effect, though, sort of remains to be seen. Disengage there from Twisted Minds with this relatively mobile composition. Fun checkmate getting caught out there by Quartz. So the switch over to Cassidy already generating some results, and Simple almost went down there to the Deadeye, but maybe a slightly early activation of that one from the Cass of Lambda. Makes the kill impossible to collect. Ziad gets a Suzu and should be able to get out of trouble for now.
Yeah, I mean, is this the worst thing for Qadsiah, right? They end up having to use Orbital Ray on the other side. I know you have Simple now playing Brig, so no rally available, and Qadsiah, they get a pretty, sizable lead, right? They double up, so not the worst thing for Qadsiah that this goes back to mid-map.
I think they're happy enough here to play and make use of that high ground. Secret checkmate's good. This time, start to fight a much better
too easy.
Well, on the Brig, sometimes it is pretty straightforward. Usually the first target for those Tracers. Now, Deadeye is completely stifled by the entirety of that defense matrix. Checkmate here, a sign of respect. Doesn't run it up on Quartz, but eventually it will be able to bring this Cassidy down. There's just far too much pressure, and All the while, Qadsiah grouping up now to push this bot towards the checkpoint.
Yeah, and they're in a very good spot to take it, right? Funny Astro, not going to be back in position fast enough, right? Going to go over to the Lucio. Let's see if this is just to speed them out of the spawn, or we're going to kind of stay on it. He will stay on Lucio, so we get that like Funny Astro trademark Lucio pick here. As look, you need a little bit of that speed survivability with the sound barrier for what Qadsiah is bringing at the moment.
Kitsune Rush, though, here for Landon once again. This time, Qadsiah in a position to make use of it, given the Twisted Minds cannot freely disengage away. And they struggle. It's just a numerical disadvantage now with that haste buff being given over. And the speed boost. Qadsiah chilling now. 75 plus meters. And again, moving into another fight where Checkmate can look to land another early pulse. Quartz at least has activated a relief valve by taking his opposite number down.
And we watched Checkmate play so much Sim. It's awesome to watch him play like a Tracer and even Genji throughout the series. Just reminds people like how good he is on these other heroes as well. But that pick by Quartz is massive, right? It actually gives Twisted Minds the space to get a fight towards mid-map. And you know, look, we have half of the game gone already. They have to make a serious push here with control of the bot soon, or else they're going to be in a very difficult spot up against the clock.
Now, so far, they've just not been able to win consecutive fights, Matt. That's why they've never been able to get past this first little hurdle. Same issue might be here, if I'm honest with you. Sound barrier comes up for Qadsiah. Simple holding onto this Kitsune Rush, though, but, well, the loss of TMT's mech might really hurt them. Both Qadsiahs are down now. The Tracers, though, get to run roughshod, and Checkmate is more than up for the task.
Yes, it's an early sound barrier from Qadsiah, right? They kind of engage with that sound barrier, and I think Twisted Minds, their logic is it's like not worth throwing the Kitsune Rush into, especially at that moment of the game. And most likely, right, if Qadsiah wins this fight, they still need another fight to gain any type of progress, right? So for Twisted Minds, it's like, look, let's just not end up burning some of our key ultimates here in a fight that we're probably going to lose anyway. Now an opportunity here behind Simple's Kitsune Rush to gain some serious progress.
Self-destruct here. Opportunity to pop back in for Ziad and keep fighting. This is Twisted Minds burning elements just to get into the middle of the map, but I guess that's the unenviable situation of being behind the 8 ball by a significant margin on this map. At least Quartz has his high ground, and Qadsiah gets stuffed into that back corner for a moment. But they are going to give it a chance to spring forth. They're going to use Kitsune Rush for a little bit of momentum. Sound barrier, the prescribed response here for Funny Astro. Lafter has that defense matrix in his face, but have a swing, and he finds Funny Astro. This is not enough of it there for TVNT to shut him down. All the healers off the map for Twisted Minds, and Qadsiah again will surge ahead.
I mean, that's just silly. He walks like right past TVNT, right? And he's able to just kind of get like a clip on the Funny Astro, and then just takes out Simple. And yeah, now you're going to stagger Quartz. I mean, this has just been 2 minutes here that is really nothing has gone TM's way, as Qadsiah with like a 60-meter lead here, as we are getting in a crunch time as Quartz now. This is like, what, the 4th or 5th hero he's played here on Esperanza. Gonna go over and play some Sombra.
Doesn't feel great against the Qadsiah. Hindrance against Sombra is basically a death sentence for something maybe needed to keep Ziad from being so effective. It's a concession, though. It really feels that way. Virus, though, catches on the Kalex. Qadsiah will be able to move forward here, and again, we just reset the fight back in the middle of the map, just as the team in Orange have been hoping for.
It definitely feels like, look, Sombra's not great into the Cassidy, but Ziad is the one that they're worried about. I mean, Ziad just kind of like running into the back line, just doing whatever he wants, being able to get out. I think that's the player they're worried about here. Not necessarily, like, even though Lab has had a pretty good game, right? They're not necessarily overly worried about his impact. It's really Ziad.
Does this give them an edge because it takes away a little bit from the raw output? TMNT wants to dance on the high ground. It's a very charged up Checkmate. Sim that is burning him down. Funny Astro, the next to face the scrutiny of Checkmate, and doesn't hold up for very long. Another D-Mech on TVNT, and it's Groundhog Day out there for Twisted Minds players. We are running it back now with Qadsiah shepherding the bot forward.
I mean, to give you an idea, when I said that they're worried about Ziad, right, more than Lambda, Ziad currently is 22-0, and number 2 in the team in terms of damage, right? So huge impact here from the D.Va. Just doing the stuff we know he can usually do, really what he did to everybody in EMEA throughout stage 2 and quite frankly, everybody at EWC except Falcons in the end. So Ziad, no surprise with his dominant D.Va play.
Great, EMP's ready, but Katsuna Rush already got used, so the timing might not be that beneficial for Quartz now. Hack attempt on Ziad, broken up. Defense Matrix also went through it. Now there's a Deadeye. That means that Twisted Minds will be ill-advised to come forward at all. Here's a Suzu now. Hack does catch on to 3, rather. EMP is good, but Checkmate had already burnt Simple and TVNT down in that small room, so Quartz is a couple of seconds too late maybe with that EMP, or maybe it's just not enough.
And I mean, Ziad still lives throughout all of that, right? So even with these adjustments to try and put pressure onto the D.Va, not enough, and Qadsiah has just blown this game completely open, Mitch. An opportunity to potentially finish the map. Another hero swap here for Quartz. Just trying to find anything that will work here. Is some shots in a checkmate gets him quite low. Not enough to finish him off, though.
Qadsiah just hoping to be able to wrap around at some point and be impactful, but again, the carousel of mystery heroes continues for the Twisted Minds hit scan player. Fortunately, the checkmate pick from Psycho's hands will at least give them a way to get back into the map. But we are in overtime, and as you know, folks, it's overtime with over 100 meters to overcome. The odds of Twisted Minds being able to take the map from here are unbelievably low.
I mean, they would need to win. You're probably looking at like, I mean, they don't even have checkpoint yet, right? I mean, you're looking at like 5-6 fights. So this has to be a like legendary historic run here for Twisted Minds in combination with there's some spaghetti dropping from Qadsiah. So we'll see if Qadsiah, okay, so it's going to be downpour. Looks like they're going to save some of their ultimates. So that's a fight win for Twisted Minds. We'll head back towards the bot. They should be able to get checkpoint off of this. So that's like one big key fight off the table. Good thing for Qadsiah, though, is they end up not like trying to commit some of those support ultimates, try and win it there. They hold on to them for this next one.
These players have been in this position a number of times, being drastically ahead on this Esperanza map, and knowing that it's definitely better to fight another day if they want to hold on to some of those ultimates. Bowler shot here, of course, and Katsuna Rush will be there for Twisted Minds. So given how effective they've been in these fights, and they've just been building on by being successful, they are going to have at least a little bit of work with. There's a sound barrier, though. Everybody on Qadsiah able to catch that out, and the sim wall in play makes it really difficult for Twisted Minds to navigate this situation. Half the time, they are shooting at a shield, whereas Qadsiah have the bullseye, and the mark is hit. Nicely done. Qadsiah take the series away in a 5-map banger, but never really fall behind on this last map.
I mean, goes all the way down to a game 5, but game 5 not exactly, you know, the most competitive of all of them. Twisted Minds, they did a great job battling back. Obviously, a chance for the reverse sweep, but you know, Qadsiah just as dominant as ever in that 5th and final map. And I also think you see TM, right? Like, didn't really seem like they knew what they wanted to go to there towards the end.
Well, I think that nothing was working is half the issue, right? We see a number of switches from Quartz, who basically like comes out of every one of these games with a really impressive amount of damage. The guy, like, with the consistency with he can hit his shots is legendary. But maybe the idea is it's not really come together. This is Twisted Minds, though, being able to play a style that has suited them in the past, right? With that hazard-based composition. I really think it's, you know, the best looks of both these teams thrown together, but eventually Qadsiah happen across a map where their style just gives him an undeniable edge.
Yeah, and I feel Twisted Minds, I think they had the right idea, right? Playing some of these like hazard-based comps. I just don't think they figured out like everything around. I thought TVNT actually had a pretty good series, Mitch. All things considered, I thought him and Quartz played quite well. We saw Simple at times. I don't really think it's like a one-person kind of thing here for TM. And quite frankly, it might just be that Qadsiah is so good at these comps that they've just kind of mastered over stage 2 that like it doesn't really matter what the other team plays, right? Like they're gonna have an answer for it. I'll be curious to see how these two teams go against everybody else. In my head, I find it hard to imagine that there's like teams that are above these two in the region at the moment.
I could agree more. I think the balance of power rests squarely with Twisted Minds and Qadsiah, with maybe some outside opportunities in EMEA, but with the ultimates, you know, now sort of dissolving and those players sort of being distributed across a little bit more. There are teams that we would hope to see step up, but it's a standard that's been set by Qadsiah and Twisted Minds, and they've maintained these very solid rosters. They are going to be the teams to beat as per usual. Chase gets mixed in a bit there as well, so glad we got to see some more of the Ukrainian. I think that, you know, that one map where they come in, though, Aatlis, it does feel like it's a little disjointed. Maybe just the coordination, which you really need in a Wrecking Ball comp, isn't present in enough of an amount.
It's also... Oh, so he's back.
I'm back. I'm supposed to be back. There we go. I am back. I am back. And
You're like the voice of God in our ear. I was like, whoa. Who's that?
That's me. That's what they call me. It did end up being a very, very quick affair. No, a very drawn out affair here, and that's exactly what we expected to see from these two teams. I have to say though, given the fact that Qadsiah is not really playing the quote-unquote meta comp, that they're still leaning so heavily into like that Symmetra and everything that made them like just so dominant in stage 2, and seeing that the second most dominant team in the region, who is leaning more into like a dive kind of situation in the current meta, that they don't manage to win that doesn't bode well for any other team in this region. Because if Twisted Mind can't find an answer to it, then like actually who can?
There's also a part of me that Twisted Minds could also look at this match and be like, well, screw it, let's just go back to playing Sim ourselves, right? Like they're like just as good as it, right? Like, so they could just say, yeah, you know what, screw it, just put Yubi back in and let's go back and do what was working during stage 2. But I do think having at least like this hazard look, and it looked good, is a big win for TM to have in their back pocket.
The Sojourn ban in that last map, I think, was pretty dastardly. I think that like that's what Quartz looked so good on when they were playing Kings Row. And the Kings Row comp was very good. It's not a sim-based one, right? Psycho is in the game, so they're looking to have like a secondary flanker option there with a sort of like Genji or Tracer mixed in. And they look really solid, but you're going up against Checkmate. It's always going to be a tough matchup. I think this is the kind of game where, yes, Twisted Mind's weaknesses get exploited, but there aren't too many teams outside of maybe this new look Virtus Pro that's going to be able to take them to that point in their game. And just, you know, to circle back to the question of how they'll look throughout the rest of the stage, I think they're fine. I think they're looking solid. I want to see them firm up Chase's role in this team a little bit more to give them the other option, because he has offered that to teams in EMEA since OWCS began, and I think it's something that's really worth investing in.
Yeah, and I think as we take a look at some of the highlights here, right, like the Widow play from Quartz was good here on Rialto, but as soon as they couldn't run that Widow anymore, things kind of just fell apart. And I gotta say, for TM, like they almost ended up losing Aatlis, right? They ended up getting that first 2 checkpoints. Now Qadsiah kind of battles back, takes it to a tie scenario. So potentially series could have ended earlier, but TM kind of closes the deal there. And then like you mentioned, Mitch, like very good on Kings Row. So that's one that I think a lot of teams feel comfortable on, but that's one that is right in TM's wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Qadsiah choosing to pick it into TM, so like I do wonder what they think about like maps like Eichenwalde and Hollywood, especially like Eichenwalde definitely has been an option for teams in the past. Really do feel like, and it's giving you like you don't have to play just one certain style. We've seen like a bunch of Orisa, we've seen D.Va mixed in like a ton on that map as well. So I'm curious that they went away from it, because I don't think two teams in EMEA know each other better than these guys. Like they've always played in high stakes games, and they've always been very, very long series, whether online, whether at LAN, doesn't seem to matter. So I still plenty of learnings to take away from both squads here in this series. I think Rialto was fun to see that map kind of mixed in here. Lijiang, I think on 2 maps, both teams had a crack at that. I don't know if those combos, with Lijiang Ultimate are really sort of making a huge difference right now. I think Simple's Immortality Fields often sort of shut that potential down, but it's nice to see there is another angle that you can attack the meta from.
Yeah, I think for both of them, since both of them utilized the Lijiang, it didn't look like either of them have been giving those Lijiang comps a lot of playtime. But how about we just ask them ourselves? We should have a winner's interview with Landon, I want to say. It is Landon. Hello and welcome to the show. First of all, of course, we have been treated to another close series between those two teams. We know how familiar you are with one another. How did you feel coming into this one, given the huge meta shift that we're seeing in other regions and all the buffs and nerfs we've seen to so many really integral meta heroes? Did you have like a specific game plan crafted against Twisted Minds there?
Going into this series, and to be honest, like most of the regular series, we're trying to like prepare as much as we can for Stockholm. So we're playing like a larger variety of comps, even if it's not something like we end up actually playing in the playoffs in Stockholm, like in the World's Finals. it's like helping, I think, us improve as players. So going into this match, like we had a couple of ideas of stuff to try to kind of like test the waters for how the rest of the stage is going to go.
Yeah, pun intended, I'm sure. Obviously, you guys end up taking the game to Kings Row, and you know, we know that's a map we've seen you guys play against Twisted Minds on a lot of occasions. You also worked chasing a little bit there on that Aatlis map in the series here. So, I mean, I think more on that note, tell us how that's gone, integrating Chase. Obviously, he's been around the EU scene a ton, and it's kind of giving you a bit of a wrecking ball option. How do you sort of feel about where that sort of style, that look for your team is right now, and how, should we expect to see more of that in the future?
It's something like we're still like working really hard on, but Chase as a player has been really nice to work with. Like whether he's playing in game, like with his main tanks, or like out of game, helping us with review and like being like an extra like smart player to help give input on stuff. It's been really nice to have.
Yeah, Landon, congrats on the win again today. Obviously, a lot of changes with Season 18. Didn't seem to change a lot of like what you guys were rolling with today. But like overall, like what's been when you guys are like scrimming and, you know, since Season 18 has started for you, what's been like the biggest difference that like whether it's like a balance change or, you know, a perk adjustment is made with a specific hero? It could be good or bad.
I mean, they took out our weapon. The weapon we had that was like the most broken thing in the entire game, and it probably should have been removed. It was a good call. Was Sim's long TP. The stuff you could do with Sim's long TP was never met. Overwatch maps were not designed for it. Like it was unbelievable. So all like our little cheese comps that we were saving for matches and stuff, we unfortunately don't get to show them all off. But it's been fun to adjust.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't look like you need it regardless. It's been a great look. Many looks we've seen from you today, and we can't wait to see what else you have in store for us in Stage 3. Landon, thank you so much, and once again, congrats.
Thank you.